Whisper secrets in the haze, hidden truths and cosmic maze. Shadows move the walls of thin, dive into the darker veils. Mysteries we can't ignore, coded words unlock the door. Every tale has got a twist. Join the hunt, you get the gist. Speaking code where secrets flow. Everywhere we want to know. Hidden clues and twisted tales. Unlocking truth where reason fails. Aliens from outer space. Mysteries we can't erase. Government and secret labs unveil signals in text. With whispers singing through the air. In the shadows, none compare. Black against night, an eerie chill. Unlock secrets if you will. Speaking code where secrets flow. Everywhere we want to know. Hidden clues and twisted tales. Unlocking truth where reason fails. Speaking code where secrets fall. Everywhere we want to know. Hidden clues and twisted tales. Unlocking truth where reason fails. Aliens from outer space. Mysteries we can't erase. Government and secret labs unveil signals in text. With whispers singing through the air. In the shadows, none compare. Black against night, an eerie chill. Unlock secrets if you will. Whispers singing through the air. In the shadows, none compare. Black against night, eerie chill. Unlock secrets if you will. Whisper secrets in the haze. Hidden truths and cosmic maze. Shadows move the walls of thin. Dive into the darker veils. Mysteries we can't see. Secrets flow. Coded words unlock the door to know. Every tale has got a twist. Join the hunt, you get the gist. Speaking code where secrets flow. Everywhere we want to know. Hidden clues and twisted tales. Unlocking truth where reason fails. Just a show. Speaking code as with tales and secrets flow. Opinions start to flow. Dive into the unknown. Is it real or just a show? Cast with tales and secrets. Opinions start to flow. Dive into the unknown. Is it real or just a show? Speaking code. Speaking Speaking Code.
Welcome everybody to the Speaking in Code podcast. We're here live and direct from the Cody Cave, and we're all together for the first time. I'm going to introduce everybody. Well, I'm Chente, that homie. First of all, I'll be your host tonight. And sitting right next to me, we have the one and only Code. Yeah. And sitting right, my bad. Sitting right across from me, the one and only Teddy Bear Dynamite.
Good evening, ladies and gems.
And then back again, special guest gangster of the evening. We have the one and only Swizzank. All right, here we go.
And then don't forget our guest.
I'm getting started.
It's the first time.
Very special guest tonight we have. He's captivated all of our minds so far. We're thinking about him a lot. I guess you could say we're paranoid about it. Ladies and gentlemen, the Paranoid American.
Give it up. Stop real quick. Here you go.
Yeah.
How y'all doing?
Over here.
All right. Thank you so much for taking the time to being on our podcast tonight.
Yeah, man. And this is honestly, it's gonna be fun because I like the energy when there's a bunch of people in the room. I'm like the only weirdo that's just talking to like a camera right now, and there's like nobody actually anywhere near me. It's kind of weird, right?
Nah. We got you.
That's usually how Chente is.
Yeah,
I know. I'm saying like in the back of your brain, something in your brain's got to know like this guy's going crazy. Like he's in a room and there's no one else in the room. And he's been talking into like the wall for the last couple hours.
Sometimes the best conversations are with yourself. You know. I don't know.
That's true.
I call that punishment.
What's in your cup?
What's in your cup segment? If you're drinking anything, this doesn't matter what it is.
No damn.
Want to just tell us what it is? We'll hold it up. Cheers. Clang clang. Cheers, bro.
This is just our icebreaker. It doesn't have to be anything in your cup. Like some people will probably come with like pens and pencils, but as long as they have a cup and they can just break the ice with it.
I'm gonna do that one episode. Just a cup full of pins.
All your
I'm rocking with that hard Arizona right now.
Oh,
We
we were talking about that earlier. You want to get diabetes, going to drink you the fruit punch.
You know what though? They like to stuff the variety pack with all the green tea one, which is the grossest one, and like
So
they just stick
gross.
the good ones on the outside, so you get all excited, and then as soon as you get the first ones in, it's just all green tea. So
Worse.
I feel like that's just alcoholic medicine.
Yes.
I never had it. It just sounds.
It's rough.
I probably should have
You
took
had
some of that to
ginseng?
get my voice
No, I
back.
never had it. I don't really like tea. I mean, I did have green tea the other day, but it was for the
You're saying teas for the Brits.
yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
That's why we threw it all in the harbor.
Yep. What else? So we got that.
Yeah. Well, what got you started into this stuff? Because you're really big into the music portion of it, and then the comics are freaking amazing. And then the stickers. I mean, I got commercials that I could play whenever.
Yeah. So real quick, do you want to plug your socials? You know, tell us.
Oh no, we'll do that at the
Oh,
end.
you know what?
We'll plug at the end.
Let's put a pause on that.
Yeah.
I'll circle back. We'll do
we
it
just
at the
plug them like every couple minutes. We'll just go through the list every once in a while.
For sure.
I mean, I actually started the whole thing in music. Like there would be no comic books and no videos or none of that, no stickers or coloring books without music to start it out with. And my original goal was to kind of do like a Gorillaz thing. I don't know if you remember when Gorillaz just came out, and like the music videos were almost like little cartoons. You know what I mean? They had characters that kept reoccurring to the point where the actual band members of the Gorillaz were supposed to be the cartoon character. So I know I got really inspired by that particular concept, and I wanted to do something very similar where it was like these time traveling conspiracy theorists that were uncovering the Federal Reserve and all this, and I wanted it to sort of span across like a music album and then go into animation, and yeah, it turned out to be that Time Samplers comic, just because. I mean, I'm guilty of this myself, man, but so many people, even after I had the songs done, it was like, it's perfect. It's got the lyrical content. It's got everything that I wanted. And now I can make like a video for it. And I found out that almost everyone that was vibing to the song, like they didn't even know what the lyrics were. Like a lot of, and I realized that myself too, that some of my favorite songs, when I actually read the lyrics on genius.com or something, I can see that like I've been singing the wrong lyrics in my head for decades, you know what I mean? And now like I got a different version that the artist wrote, and the same kind of thing was happening. I didn't want, like, if this information was that important to me, I didn't want it to be so easily like bypassed in just music. So it kind of slowly evolved into that comic form that you see today.
Nice.
Yeah, the music portion of it, and then the you know how I heard about you originally was I got from this fool. He's really big into Isaac Weishaupt, so I ended up getting
This fool?
Oh, sorry, Chente, the homie.
This fool.
He
Yeah.
he got me into
We'll be using everyone's government names on here.
yeah.
Yeah. That's my government, y'all.
Yeah. I ended up getting into Isaac Weishaupt because of him. So that was just like, you know what, this guy got some he's got some books and stuff that he was into. So I was like, you know what, I would really want to give back in a way to the community, or like actually show that I want to be a part of it in a way if I'm able to I don't know, help out and spread their info or whatever the case. So I got a couple of the books, and I had two bookmarkers. Well, I used two bookmarkers. One is Paranoid American, and then the other one is the homunculus, the little homunculus comic. Oh no, I'm sorry, the MK Ultra comic book. So I was using
yeah.
those bookmarkers and
Oh,
stuff.
where do those come from? Did those come from Isaac?
Yeah, they came with his books when I ordered them.
Okay, yeah. When I first got the bookmarks made and those little MK Ultra, I think I sent them like 50 or so for just
Nice.
anyone that ordered. It was kind of like a surprise thing too. That anyone that ordered a shirt or a book or whatever ended up getting some of that stuff for free. So
Okay.
I'm happy that it ended up doing its job. You know what I mean? That it connected with some people that needed to see it.
Well, then I ended up getting a hold of. I kept hearing about Sam talking about the Chaos Twins comic that you did, and I was like, this is such a cool idea and cool concept and stuff. So I was like waiting for it to come out. I wasn't hearing him really promote it as much anymore. And then I think it was already out. So then when I ordered them, I was like, wait, Paranoid American? This sounds so familiar. And then I was reading the book again, and I was just like, oh, I've been taking a shit in the bathroom every day reading this book. Like I'm like halfway through it, and I'm like using the bookmarkers that say Paranoid American. And I was like, I gotta look this guy up. So I like tagged you. I like bookmarked your website and stuff. I was like, I'm gonna look at this. So pulled it up at a government office in my computer at work, and I'm like, that's probably not a good idea. So I ended up looking it up and stuff, and I was just like, oh man, he's got some dope stuff. So then
Yes, you got to come from multiple angles. It's just proof that you got to like plant different seeds in different ways, and then all of a sudden, once like 2 or 3 hit, then it's like, oh my god, this thing has been right in front of me. Like I don't know, it's kind of a weird way that it has to work. Like a really annoying thing that one of my friends that's in the marketing, and I absolutely hate marketing. I hate promotion and stuff. It's just like a necessary evil. But some people are just really good at it. One of my friends is telling me that most people, they've got to see or hear something at least 7 times before it even registers the first time. So even like when you hear something, you probably have just like ignored it, or it was on in the background at least 7 times, like by rule of thumb. So it's kind of an annoying fact of life that, you know, you got to like keep beating people from multiple directions in order to get attention.
Yeah. So, and that was probably my second book I started. So I'm like, I already went through an entire book using that bookmarker. I was like, I got to hurry up and take this out of here. I just didn't want to lose my space or my place in the book. So, and then, dude, thank you so much again for like the music idea and everything too. Like I created a playlist, a conspiracy playlist with just your songs that you did for like the body count, the freaking those ones. I even had the kid version playing on my phone at work, and people are like, "That's really catchy. What is that?" And I'm like, "The Clinton body count." They're like, "Wait, what?" And then I was like,
I love that, man. I love that so much.
Yeah, so I mean, like they're awesome. And then when I was asking you, like, "Hey, how do you do this?" and then you were just so quick to like even help out and like help even like tune some of the ideas for like the theme songs and stuff, or just ideas just for songs for us. So I was like creating like specific ones for TBD and Chente, and I was like, oh, maybe I could do
the one you made. It was great, man. Like, I mean, I've heard a lot of different people's renditions on everything, and it was good. You know what I mean? It wasn't kind of like slop. So yeah, I offered a couple of suggestions, and I was thinking too, like, let me just show you exactly how to implement the suggestion instead of just like saying something and leaving it out there. Because sometimes I hate that a little bit, where it's like you get a response for the help, but it's just like, I don't know what to do with this. Someone will be like, oh, just turn the, you know, the XYZ dial to the right. And you're just like, oh, thanks. And you're like, the fuck is the XYZ dial? So yeah, I mean, and it sounded good, man. And I really am passionate about, in particular, helping people understand how to use AI, just because there's so much misconception about it. And people are like afraid of it or for it or against it, but they don't actually know what the hell they're for or against. So I'm a big proponent of like figure out how to use it for your own good right now, because we're kind of in the Wild West. Like I guarantee you, people are going to be looking back in 10 years from now the same way in like 2020. You look back at the early 2000s and you're like, man, I remember when the internet wasn't, you know, so locked down and walled garden. You're going to think the same way about the AI tools in like 10 years from now. You'll be like, man, we had it all, you know, 10 years ago.
The other crazy thing too is like, I don't know about you guys, but I feel like everything that they release government wise, they've already had it way in advance than us. So it's like we're getting all this cool AI tools now, but like I feel like they've had it. Yeah, they're like, oh, we'll just change the votes, we'll just change who we put in power.
You know what it is though, man? They've got the tech, but a lot of the time, until they give it over to the private sector, they don't get the innovation. And they don't get like
They don't
one of
have
the
the
better
imagination.
analogies I can think of is like when the PlayStation, like I don't know how old you guys are, when the PlayStation 2 came out, right? Like
yeah.
day one, the first PlayStation game, except for the launch titles that they had been spending all their time making, but like the games that came out like 5 months after that weren't the launch titles, those games would usually not be anywhere as good as a PlayStation 1 game that had, because that console had been out for like 4 or 5 years. So everyone knows how to milk like every last little horsepower out of that machine and get the
Yep.
textures and the sound and like everything working. And as soon as they come out with a new console, right, it's like they kind of got to start over, so it becomes real simplistic, and then over time it gets more developed. And it's the same thing where it's like when Sony puts out the PlayStation, they made the engine, so the engine's capable of doing some awesome stuff, but no one's going to make the GTA for like 3 or 4 years until you get it out into the private sector where you've got like more creative minds and people that aren't locked down into the military and corporate way of thinking. And that's you. And then because that's what the government does is they're like, okay, we've brought this as far as we're capable of doing, and now we got to go and get some outside, and they release it in ways that it's like, oh, it's free. But the free means like you're gonna train it, and then we're just gonna take that back and use it against you later.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. And I think the other thing too, it's like they don't have the imagination that they can do to create this stuff. It's like I get the idea of like people stealing without getting credit. Like if it was like AI stealing from a specific artist, like an indie artist or something like that, it's like I could understand people not understanding that portion of it. But then when you're creating stuff based off of like that song I created was the trailer for our episode that we wrote for TBD to read along. So it's like you get an idea of what our podcast is about. I pretty much copied that entire thing, put that into the description, and then that's how it created the entire song. So that's why it's like,
Oh
birds
wow,
aren't
man!
real, aliens and
I did a
Bigfoot.
great job with that.
Yeah, I was shocked. And then I was making like, I don't know, I was just trolling some people at work. I was just making random songs about people coming in late every day. And
Yeah, dude, it's the most wild thing that if you can put on a song in the background and you don't make a big deal out of it, you're not like, hey, listen to the song that's about to come on, just put it on. And it's like, George, I saw you come in late today, about 17 minutes. That's the third day. And it's just like, wait a minute, what am I hearing right now?
I do that on his speaker at work, and people are like, wait, what is this? Who's singing Big D Energy? Michael Obama, what? Yeah. They're like, this is so catchy. And then they start singing Michael Obama. They're like turning their head like a dog just heard some high pitch. They're like, wait a minute. So
all the credit on that song goes to Cheney, really. She wrote the lyrics for that one.
Okay. So that's how that works with you guys? Like you guys kind of feed back and forth, kind of like the ideas when you were helping me out with that song too? Or do you?
Yeah, I mean, like I've got my own ideas in mind. So when I sit down to write a song or come up with something, like I keep going back to the same things that I want to hear and the lyrics that I want to write. But sometimes Cheney will come out of left field and she's got a way cooler idea than anything that I'm cooking on at that moment. So yeah, she was just like the Tom Hanks Plasma Bag song was pretty like, so the way it usually works is that she'll be like, hey, I got this idea, here's the hook, or here's the first like 3 or 4 lines of it. And I'll kind of start with that and start cooking on it a little bit, and then I'll develop the verse a little bit. I might rework the chorus, and then most of the time, since you already have played with Suno a little bit, a lot of it's just like, okay, I've got the lyrics exact. Like I know exactly what I want them to say, and I almost have an idea in mind of like how I want them to say it. But then I just like sit back and crank out like 50 or 100 or 200 of them, and then just sit there and listen to all of them, and then end up with like 10 top ones, and then compare those ones, and then get it down to 3, and then so there's a lot of like interesting curation steps in it versus like there's less creative steps once you've got all the things that you want. It's almost like being a chef. Like once you've lined up exactly what the ingredients are, the rest of it is just like stir a little bit here and like flip this over here a little bit. Like it's kind of hard to pinpoint exactly what a chef is doing, but if someone doesn't know what they're doing, they can burn the burger, right? Or they can like undercook the chicken. There's all kinds of ways it can go wrong. But from an outside observer, you're like, oh, that dude's just flipping this thing once in a while. He's just like opening the oven and looking in there and closing it. What the hell is this guy even doing? We don't need him,
Oh, that's super sick, man. And then I was gonna so do you do all the drawings for the comic books, or do you have like somebody else draw and you just
No,
hope
not
it-
anymore, man. At this
Okay.
point, I've got like 200 artists that I've worked with. Literally, I've got them all listed on my website.
Okay.
So when I first started, I got my own very specific style, and it started with this comic called Telemind, which I don't even think I've got it anywhere because it was like very early. It was like not production ready, but I had these Telemind characters, and that's what I started drawing. And then I would start passing those off to the guys I was working with at Disney, and like, hey, you know, how would you draw this? And they'd be like, oh yeah, and like literally like 30 seconds later, I'd be like, "Brrr," and it would be so much cooler than like what I was kind of putting together. You know what I mean? Because I was an animator at Disney, but I wasn't an illustrator. So I would take other people's illustrations and I would animate them using all kinds of digital tools, and I would do the in between frames and stuff. But I've got like my own very specific minimal style that I started doing in books. But at a certain point, I just realized like the stories would get way more traction if it had a little bit more of a conventional comic look. And then once I started doing time samplers and I had like 3 or 4 done, I had to come to a moment where I was like, do I want to do more books? And do I want all my books to look exactly the same? Or do I want to kind of have like a sketchier version and like a black and white comic and one that looks more painted? And that was the direction that I ended up going. So even if I wanted to do all the art for everything, like it would still have my one style on it. And then as I graduated from just making a comic book to publishing multiple comic books and being a publisher, it was almost like there's no time for me to sit down and do 8 hours of artwork. Like those 8 hours I need to like be communicating with other artists and like, you know, fixing scripts and doing edits and all this stuff. So like the only artwork I do now is just personal things.
Okay.
Nice.
Yeah.
Now, with the artists that you're working with, are you guys like are you splitting publishing, or are you like paying them an upfront fee for like their work, or how is that working with that?
Yeah, so that's probably the most conventional way that I'm familiar with comics, especially in the indie world, is that you either do like a split royalty thing, and usually the split royalty, and I'm might be talking out of turn here. Like I live in a bubble. I've learned everything by doing it on my own. I've had a couple people try and take me under the wing, but like I'm a wild card a little bit. So, like, but like yeah, so when it comes to the split publishing, which I don't really do very often unless someone comes to me with a completely finished book and they're like, I want to get this published with more eyes on it and I want better print price, like all that stuff, then I'll do like a split of some kind. But in the world usually, you'll do that if like I can't afford an artist at all and I can convince them to work on a book and like we just want to make this thing happen regardless of what it makes, and then kind of put it out there. And if it hits pay dirt, then we kind of split it. That's one mentality. And then the other one, it's like you're established already. So it's almost like check the catalog. Like you can see that I put out books, I pay people. So let's do this now. And then after it's over, like we'll negotiate based on some terms. Usually like the bigger artists are the ones that can pull that one off. I don't do either of those because they're really messy and there's all like, bro, like life happens, you know, like weird, like all kinds of stuff happens in the course of doing a comic, which usually takes 3 months, 6 months, maybe 8 months, depending on the length. So I mean, in 8 months, bro, like I've had artists like fall off mountains, like had getting mauled by dogs and stuff. Like I'm crazy, like weird stuff. So I tend to prefer to just pay up front, get a whole book done, and usually I won't even make a peep about it. I won't post on it on social media or anything until it's completely done, just because there's been so many times I got like 3/4 of the way in and something happens and, you know, I have to rework it, the timeline shifts. So yeah, like my particular way of doing it is get the entire thing done and then start kind of hinting at it. And I usually pay the artists up front, whatever rate that they charge.
And then what, do you have a question? No. Oh, okay. What conspiracies did you get into? Like, how did you get started into conspiracies?
Probably listening to Wu-Tang and Kill Army and like Prodigy, hearing about Illuminati, and in particular, there was a Kill Army album called Silent Weapons for Quiet Wars, and I remember trying to find a copy of it, and this is like the late 90s or something, and I'm looking up on, you know, Netscape or whatever, and I'm searching Silent Weapons for Quiet Wars, and the book keeps coming up. So I finally, you know, looked into the book because because there was like a free version of it because 90s internet was awesome. And
Mhm.
as I'm reading through this, it was like UFO disclosures and MK Ultra and like Lord Rothschild controlling society through electromagnetism properties. So, I mean, that was probably the very first time. And on that same exact website that had Silent Weapons for Quiet Wars, they had Secret Teachings for All Ages. They had the Emerald Tablets. I don't think it was Whale.2, but it was like one of those. It was like sacredtext.org or one of those kind of websites that just had all the old stuff for free. So it was. I have to kind of credit like Kill Army for a lot of that. And then growing up in the 80s and the 90s, I grew up in the Satanic Panic. And I remember having code words with my parents and having a talk with like teachers and adults that are like, look out, there's Satanists that'll pop out of a van and like kidnap you and drain you for your blood. Like it was wild, you know what I mean? So that alone, like I grew up in the thick of conspiracy theories. When you're telling kids, look out, there's Satanists that are gonna jump out of a van and kidnap you, like, is that not a freaking conspiracy? You know what I mean? If you told someone that right now, they'd be like, you're wild, man. You're a wild right-winger.
Yeah. And then you show them Tom and like,
Isaac Cappy and everything.
yeah, like, oh, snap.
You know how you keep like an empty wallet if you get mugged, so you can like give them the empty wallet or like the burner phone. Like you got it in case like comes after you kids. You always got to give them like an extra glove or like a shoe so they can just like
or an Instagram picture.
yeah.
I don't know where the other one is. You're like, yeah, because I gave it to them. I got the other one in my house for collateral. Yeah.
So when you came across that book online, was it interesting to you at first? Were you like, oh, word? Or
No, not really. It was just like it kept coming up over and over. And then in addition to that, on that album, I think on Silent Weapons for Quiet Wars, I got a bunch of quotes from George W. Bush talking about Iran-Contra allegations and things like this. And then there was another, ironically, another Wu-Tang album that it wasn't like a major one. It was like one of the little remixes that RZA put out in like 99. And man, what the hell is it called? It was like the Hidden Chambers of Wu-Tang or something, like all the B cuts. And one of those songs had Jordan Maxwell breaking down something about maritime law, or like doing the wordplay that Jordan Maxwell does, where it's like it's a current sea and everything is a current and there's the sea, and like he was doing one of those things. And I just remember like I need to find out who that guy is that's talking. And it wasn't in the liner notes, and there wasn't like a Reddit or a Twitter where I could be like, hey, does anyone, you know what I mean? So, and nobody knew, like anyone that I even talked to were just like, oh no, I just skipped that part. It's just some dude talking, you know, go to the next song. So I was on like a hunt to find where that came from. And through that, I, found like David Icke books and Alex Jones sort of stuff on public access. So and this is probably late 90s, early 2000s, and I joined the military in 2001 and went to Texas. And Alex Jones was like on the local access there because I was in San Antonio. So that was like a natural progression. And it just felt like somebody came in, and I had been listening to the radio on like 2, and I didn't realize that there was a volume dial. And like when I found Alex Jones in the early 2000s, it was like someone just walked in and cranked the volume all the way up to 10. And I was like, oh, damn, this is crazy now.
Okay. That's awesome. And then TBD, do you know who Jordan Maxwell is?
No, I do not. Who is Jordan?
Like the father of conspiracy theory.
Isn't that Ghislaine Maxwell's dad?
Yeah, he died a few years ago, I think.
Jordan
Oh, not Ghislaine Maxwell's dad?
No.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I thought there was like a tie.
No,
Oh,
that's
dang.
Robert Maxwell.
Oh,
No,
okay.
he's the one that drew
Sorry.
connections to the way our financial system is, and like he said, maritime admiralty law.
Yeah, his biggest one is the maritime admiralty law, where he does this whole analogy where he's explaining how the governments look at the peons, like the regular citizens, through the concept of a ship coming into a harbor, where it's like you got to give, like if you're born, you got to give a birth certificate, and that comes because when a ship would come into the port, that ship represents the economy, and it's like I'm bringing goods into your economy. And in order for that economy to receive those goods, you basically get like an official document that's like, here you go. Here's an acknowledgement that you just brought us, 20 tons of tea, and it's worth this amount of money. And here's where it came in. And like all that concept is exactly how the birth process works, to the point where when a boat comes to harbor, it's birthing. So it's like you birth a child, you sign a birth certificate. I'm just gonna be repeating Jordan Maxwell at that point, but it blew my mind when I heard that the first time, man.
I know he kind of helped to fuel the sovereign citizen movement with the whole process. So I think that's pretty badass.
I respect the idea behind sovereign citizen, but I think it's so silly, bro. I think it's like
you want to get
like,
killed.
it's my favorite thing when I'm watching Cops or Live PD. The second someone says, "I'm not driving, I'm traveling," you hear him in the background. I'm like, yes. Like I put my phone down. I'm like watching.
That's hilarious. And then like, so you were in the military. So was Isaac too, wasn't he?
Yeah.
What branch were you in? Or you don't want to talk about it? That's fine.
Yeah, I was in the chair force.
Oh, okay, nice.
The chair.
I was in the Coast Guard, so we're right there with you.
I think that's a little better. I was a little better than the Coast Guard. Let's be honest.
Yeah, you guys got funding. You guys got all the funding. We just got the peon stuff. I'm like, crap. They put us
when I first went to join the military, speaking about better funding, like the place where the recruiters were at in my town, it was this weird freaking place. It was like a comic book shop, and literally right, and then like a music store, and then right between them there was this like door that would go into this hallway, and inside the hallway there were like 4 doors, and one went to the Army, Marines, Navy, and the Air Force. And me and my friend were going into the Marine one because we had seen Full Metal Jacket, and we're just like, we're badasses, we're gonna go and do the hardcore thing. And they got the greatest sort of marketing, right? Like, if you want to be a badass, you join the Marines, everything else is on the side. And we went all the way through. We did the ASFAB. We took like the ASFAB test. And I remember going in, and then I showed him my ASFAB score, and he was like, son, I'm real proud of you, because with a score like this, you could walk across the hall right now. You'd get paid more. You'd walk out with a degree in, software engineering. You'd be able to sleep in tents. You'd get better food. But nah, you're going to be a hardcore Marine. And I was like, wait, could you repeat those parts about getting paid more and like air conditioning and stuff? And I just walked out of the office and then across the hall, and I joined the Air Force that same day. So
that's hilarious.
He talks himself out of a recruit.
Yeah, that's exactly how our recruiting station down here was.
Yeah, it's in a plaza. There's like restaurants. There's Target and all that.
Oh, up there?
No, fair. Yeah.
Oh,
you know what it is, man? Not a lot of shopping plazas want to have a military recruitment place because it gives it like a certain stank to it. You know what I mean? Like, so once a place is found that they're like, hey, they're letting us do our weird thing where we recruit kids in the military here, then they all kind of latch onto that. You know what I mean? It's like a rat nest.
I had a guy call, and he's like, hey, I'm in, like, do you want to come in and interview with the Navy and stuff, or come check us out? We'll talk you into all this stuff. So I go there, and this just hit me just like a week ago. I go there to talk with the Navy and just see what they were about, and they stood me up. And the army was open, and they're like, hey, yeah, they stood you up. That's messed up. Just come here. And I think they called me. I think they're the ones that called me, and I went there. They weren't there, so then I got to interview with them. And then my uncle told me, he's like, I'll kick your ass in front of the whole family if you do that, because he was drafted in Vietnam. I was like, oh, okay, I won't. And then I asked about the Air Force. He's like, join the Coast Guard. He's like, you get to travel anywhere. Join the Coast Guard, boot camp, straight to the Middle East. I was like,
it's all, bro, it's 100% lies. Every single thing your recruiter ever tells you is just all lie. Like, they're worse than a car salesman, and you don't know it until it's way, way too late. You know what I mean? And then what are you going to do about it? Like, it's part of the game. But it is a little bit wild how they have like adults that are trained in sales techniques that prey on like 15, 16, 17-year-old kids and fluff them up because they really look like the ultimate authority figure. It's kind of a weird dynamic. I really kind of hate it in retrospect.
Yeah. Like, we had like an E7 that was like in charge of like my recruiter, and he sucked. He was the worst. And then like my buddy had like a guy that was like E6 in the Marines, and he was just like calling him by rank and all this stuff. And he's like, yeah, you guys are going to do great. And then as soon as he was done, it was just like, never heard from the guy again. I'm like, so. Yeah.
Well, I mean, how often does the car salesman call you up like, hey, bud, just making sure you're doing okay. Can I get you? Like, come on, man.
Yeah. Yeah. Did you buy that $75,000 Camaro that I told you about with that bonus, and then you're just in debt paying like 17% interest rate on your shitty car. Ugh.
Nice.
Try to squeeze some out of it.
That sounded kind of
To
personal.
try.
That sounded kind of-
Very specific.
Did you get swindled in the 17%?
No,
All
I
right.
was kidding.
Hey,
I did that 17% on a house.
that story has some
No, I'm
stank.
joking. You pass me the tequila. You drinking anything tonight?
Tequila.
Yeah, nobody ever said what was in their cup.
Oh, yeah. Sorry.
No, I shouted mine out. I got the Arizona hard
Oh,
iced tea.
yeah.
Hard Arizona.
None of the rest of us did.
Yeah. We're making a
Water.
fresh whitey. Yeah.
Quality.
Got this
Oh,
tequila that we won't say the name of because we're not getting paid. I don't know what it is. Chase Generations. 3 generations. Tastes good.
You just said we weren't going to say the name.
Sorry. That was so loud. I was not expecting that.
so you say you can get into some Disney conspiracies?
Oh god, this is gonna be good.
I like it. Yeah. Can you?
Yeah,
You have,
so, I mean, so I worked at Disney for 10 years on property. Like I'm still here in Orlando, but at Walt Disney World, in the Royal Disney post-production building, which is on the back lot of what was then MGM Studios, and then it turned into Hollywood Studios. And I believe the building I used to work in, it had the only orchestral Foley soundstage that could fit an entire, like, I don't remember how many pieces, like an 18-piece or whatever the number is, orchestra that was on, like, in the state of Florida. So that was kind of wild for doing a bunch of post-production work. And then, I got to work sort of shoulder to shoulder with people that had put in work on Aladdin and Lion King and all of like the movies that I remember growing up with.
Yeah.
But I mean, all the old dudes that were the OGs, they had all already gone. And I think almost all those dudes were in California. So I was never like a huge Disney fanatic, although growing up in Florida, I had grandparents that brought me to the parks. And I remember liking the straight up just regular Donald Duck and Mickey Mouse cartoons. So I mean, the Disney thing actually came out fairly recently, that getting into like the occult symbolism, because I got a friend, Matt, in Japan, Matt Kamaji's, and we started a podcast. He hit me up and he was like, "Hey, I saw that you worked there for all this time and you're into conspiracy theories. Have you ever actually done deep dives on the movies?" And I've heard all the different theories, but I never myself like sat down and took notes and rewatched any of the Disney movies. So he pitched that idea that we do a podcast called Occult Disney, and I think that we're on like episode 60 or 70 or something. Like we watched every single feature-length Disney animation movie from the very beginning, Snow White, all the way. I think we just did Monsters Inc., which was 2001. So we've watched the last 70 years worth of animated movies, and every single one, it's been taking like the deepest notes, going into the research on like where the original characters came from, where the names come from, like any drama that was going on in the production. So yeah, I mean, we can go pretty deep into any Disney movie that at least it's 2001 or before, because I haven't made it beyond that yet.
Jeez. And I've heard that there's like there's a lot of them that have either a number, like a letter and a number, like A113 or something like that.
Studio? It says studio, right?
That's the Pixar ones, yeah, because because all of the animators went to the same school in Caltech, and I believe that like one of the rooms that they all would go to, that you had to take this mandatory class, and I believe it was like room A13 or A113 or something, and that number ends up becoming in all these different Disney movies, because it's a nod to like we all got initiated into this particular class in this state in this school, you know. So it's like the ultimate inside joke. It would be if all your homies put like the room number of your homeroom, if you all shared like a high school or something together. It's like that level of insider.
Jeez.
I know a lot of theories go into like, oh, it means like a evil substance, but I'm like 90+% positive it's just an inside reference to the education link.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. Because it's like there's definitely some things where you're like, oh, is this a conspiracy? Like, do I really want to jump down this, or is this like just a
trivial thing?
Yeah, they're just trying to. They're like, they got to put it in everything so it shows in your face all the time. And you're like, it's like I could see that with some things, but certain
mean,
things. I'm
until recently, man, until like the whole woke culture thing became like a corporate positive, which I don't know, like 2010, we'll say, maybe 2010 plus. But before that, I'm still a pretty staunch believer, even being a conspiracy theorist, and everyone calls me paranoid American, but I really think that there's nothing that Disney was doing that was more nefarious than just trying to brainwash kids into buying Disney crap for the rest of their lives and buying it for their kids. And there's really not, like, they don't need to implant secret satanic, subliminal messages. They're just like, my favorite one is something called the Disney proxy, which is this theory that I've been working on, where in every single Disney movie, save for like 5 in the last 70 years, that the kid almost always gets kidnapped or lost, or the parents die, or something happens where you see a kid that's got his support group, and then he's removed from it completely, usually in a very tragic way. And then if you're a little kid watching this thing and you're identifying with this, you're still forming your ideas of the world, right? So for you to identify with this character on the screen, perhaps by yourself, like your parents are like, oh, kid's occupied, I'm going to go and do my thing real quick. So now the kid's watching this, he's all alone, and he's identifying with an orphan, and so the kid's in their mind, right? And they're like, oh, my parents abandoned me too. Yeah, we're both, like, me and you, we're in this together, Fievel or Mickey or whoever the hell they're watching, and then the first thing that always happens is that this IP character will come in, and it's always the most identifiable sidekick character that's gonna have a Happy Meal toy, and they're gonna have a lunchbox, and they're gonna have all the ancillary products that are gonna come with it. In my mind, that's probably the most nefarious thing that they were up to for the longest period of time. Like, I don't know how much damage a little dick castle is gonna do in the background of a VHS cover. What are they trying to, fine, yeah, they're trying to sexualize children, fine, but they really want you to buy a freaking Happy Meal toy, and they really want you to buy that stupid Little Mermaid NES game, even though it sucks. That's
Really
I think way more nefarious.
What, the ringworm?
The little handheld Little Mermaid. Yeah.
The little Tycho
Yeah.
or Tiger, yeah, the little Tiger games.
Is that the ones that were like single, like you could have like a up,
Yeah.
left, right, and then it's just a little
It's
small
like
button?
trying to play with a calculator and convince yourself that it's a game.
I know what you're talking about now. I had one kid that my mom would babysit before school every morning, and he would always bring it over and never let me play. And I just couldn't stand
You
it.
didn't miss out on anything, man.
He made me think I did.
I hope you
Freaking
never
nerd.
That was honestly the main point of getting one of those things, was you'd have like the Street Fighter Tiger game, and
Yeah.
the only fun part was convincing other people that you were like actually having fun playing it. And that's why you couldn't let your friends play it, because if your friend played it, they would know, unless they also got in on it. You know what I mean? That's how a lot of religions start, I think.
Oh,
I like that.
jeez.
All right, cool. What was the roughest Disney movie for you guys to review and take notes?
Parent Trap. No, I'm kidding.
What was
What was
the
the
question?
what was the toughest movie for you guys to get through, to take notes?
Some of them you just have to like really work extra hard, because there's not any overt symbolism, and like we're trying to make a show. You know what I mean? So you can't just watch a movie and then do like a movie I don't want to just do a regular movie review, because it's a cult Disney. So sometimes you really got to like ham fist in some of the stuff. I think the first Winnie the Pooh movie, that was one of the rougher ones, because the movie itself is boring as hell. Like in fact, the movie is so boring that there's an inside joke that the narrator, and this is the one from the 70s, I think, but the narrator at certain points in the movie, he'll be like, you know what, let's just skip some of these pages, and he literally like skips over like 20 or 30 pages. And it's like, I don't know, it's a weird inside joke that, yeah, we know how boring this movie is. So ones like that where everyone's already done the thing where everyone in Winnie the Pooh resembles like represents like a different mental illness, where there's ones where Winnie the Pooh is dead, and so we had to come like original on some of these things. So those ones, it's like you watch the movie, you take the notes, but then you got to sit down and be like, okay, now what can we do to make it a little bit more interesting and on brand? So I think that one we broke down Winnie the Pooh as every character first was a tarot card, and then we did if they were all Gnostic archetypes, which led to Christopher Robinson being the Antichrist, which that made it an interesting episode, but it wasn't easy. It didn't just like roll right off.
And you have,
How do you-
oh, sorry.
Hey, how do you? So my wife hit me up with this one. I think it was yesterday. She tried to connect Pennywise from It and Winnie the Pooh and Christopher Robin, since they both have red balloons. How you feel about that?
What about the red balloon?
So you know how Pennywise, the clown from It,
Oh yeah.
Robin,
I mean, I could see that. Yeah, because I mean, in this context, Christopher Robin is kind of like the ruler of this universe. So he was the Antichrist. He might have also been like the demiurge in a way, where like he controls this world full of flawed characters. So in that case, like the clown from It, he also kind of was superior to all the kids, right? Like he kind of got to control the world and the reality of these kids, the same way that Christopher Robin controls his like stuffed animals that somehow become animated. I think that there's a thread there where like Christopher Robin might actually be a psychopath in training, the way that like has this whole world imagined, and the characters are going through some really deep like personal things. You know what I mean? Like if you open up the actual the plot lines that the characters in Winnie the Pooh go through, they're very adult things, which is part of why I think it's kind of boring, where it's just like he wants to find his family and he's going through like an identity crisis, but there's no fun explosions or like toys coming to life aside from little animals walking around. But in Winnie the Pooh, it's like they lose their novelty of being a little bear walking around, because it's like we've had Yogi the Bear, we've had Mickey Mouse, and we've had animals moving around already. So like, what else do you bring to it? And there's no crazy like cartoonish animation where people getting hit on the head with mallets and stuff in Winnie the Pooh, right?
Yeah. And is this what you're talking about for the most part? Like on your Rumble, you guys break down all
this
the...
is it exactly.
Okay. I was like, oh my gosh, I came across this one by accident. I was like, what?
That Disney fucking Bambi.
Yeah,
that's a rough movie
That's
to sit
really
through.
good.
Am I the only one? that didn't-
Bambi's so
Oh,
the early ones are the most interesting because you can see them putting the formula together over time. And Bambi was one of those big ones where they realized, like, damn, killing the parent off this early got them so much press coverage. And there's so many really interesting threads on that Bambi movie. That movie was so impactful that people started like contacting their Congress people, and they were like, we want to end deer hunting altogether. And there was actually like a very big push to end deer hunting because of Bambi. And the author of the original book of Bambi and the people that adapted it and turned it into a movie, after a while, they saw that what was happening is that deer don't have natural predators aside from like, coyotes every once in a while, but really like humans are their main natural predators that actually cull the population. And without people actually actively hunting them, they would overpopulate, and then they would eat all like the greenery. And all of a sudden it's like, well, now you got to kill them because they're moving onto your food that you're trying to grow. So it actually created a nationwide issue where deers were at risk of overpopulating entire areas because of the freaking Bambi movie. So Disney realized that they had struck something that was so powerful that they had to walk it back a little bit. And they consciously made this effort to like, let's make sure that whatever we're emotionally charging in this movie doesn't actually result in like some crazy nationwide kind of blowback.
yeah.
I have a question. Like, I get lost when I watch movies, and so I don't notice like any propaganda or hidden things. During your process of doing this, have you ever forgot to look for those things and just got back into the story?
That's a good
Oh yeah. I mean, sometimes I'll have to stop myself because I realize I'm like watching it as a movie instead of doing like a decode, because it's a totally different hat that you have to kind of put on. So I'll give you a really good example, because we had a previous child actor that came on as a guest recently, and we did she was in the Lizzie McGuire series. So we did the Lizzie McGuire movie, which is not a movie I'd ever seen before. It came out after I was in the military. It's like out of my demographic.
Yeah.
So we're sitting here, I'm watching it, and I was just like, how the hell am I going to come up with like an occult decode for a freaking Lizzie McGuire movie? But man, like as the credits are rolling, because I know I've got my conspiracy and my occult hat on as I'm watching it. I'm not watching this one out of enjoyment, so I've already got the hat on and I know that it's on. And there's this scene in the credits, like 2 minutes in, where she slips and falls in the shower, like backwards. And I was just thinking, like, damn, like that would have killed a normal part. Like people die like that all the time. And then I was like, what if the rest of this movie, she's dead? Like she died right then in the credits, and the rest of this. And just by thinking that, I swear, like everything just started lining up to the point where I was almost like, I think that she actually did die in those credits, and it's beyond me just like looking into it.
Yo,
This is the one, yeah.
movie came out, dude, my sister played that nonstop in the summer. She was like, "What, babysitting me or whatever," and just on a loop, bro. She'll be like in the kitchen cooking or cleaning, and the movie just be on, bro.
Jeez.
I'm like, man,
Nobody loves Lizzie McGuire that much.
No.
There's no way.
Miranda.
That one is legit, man. That one is one of the. I don't think I've posted the episode yet. I still got to edit it, but it'll come out this month. But that Lizzie McGuire one is one of my favorites now, and I kind of owe it to watching it not as like a movie, but like, okay, let's find something here. And like I wasn't even really looking for it, man. It just happened, and it was just like, she's dead. Like she just slipped and fell. She's dead. And within seconds, they showed someone knocking over a bottle of like red nail polish, and it like dripped down, and it looked like blood. And then like there was so many things that kept lining up. And then at one point in the movie, the whole plot, it's spoiler alert in case you're gonna watch the Lizzie McGuire movie.
We're gonna do a watch party right after this episode.
They go on a school trip to Rome. And the very first scene after they get to Rome, they're walking out onto the city, and the sun's rising, right? So it's like a new day. So that's kind of symbolic in a way of just like moving the plot line along. And as soon as she walks out, her friend walks up behind her, and he's got a jacket that says St. Peter on it. And there's like gates out in the background. It was like, what's going on here? Like I wasn't trying to find more and more. Like things just kept popping up. So
that's hilarious. Did you do this? Did you do this breakdown? Like I saw one of the episodes you did for the Disney breakdown was with Donut. Did you do this one with him, or did you do it with anybody else, or just yourself?
Well, the Lizzie McGuire one we did with I wish I could remember her name. I remember the name off the top of my head. But she was like a special guest that had been in some of the Lizzie McGuire TV episodes. But I don't know if she had necessarily like watched some of our occult Disney episodes, because sometimes they get a little bit off the rails, and I don't know if she was expecting it as much. She was an awesome guest, but I think that she might have been out of her element a little bit.
That's hilarious.
Shout out Miranda.
Yeah, I thought it was
Shout out Miranda.
I wonder if she's still
with 2 C's.
If she is, I'm single.
Yeah.
And he has an
I'm
OnlyFans.
gonna watch
Yeah.
it. I'm gonna watch it again.
You want to plug your OnlyFans for Paranoid American?
OnlyFans.com.
Tell them what it is though.
Oh, it's just me as a bad guy doing skinny inch-tip guy stuff. You know, like the guy or like firefighters when they're doing the training.
He just
But
coming
me
down the
all fat
hole.
oil.
And oil.
You gotta have the oil.
He's all looped up. No.
You gotta see every crevice and roll.
It's better than a 9 to 5, man.
Oh, my next question is, which movie had the most obvious signs that like they popped out at you right away while you were watching?
Fantasia, the OG Fantasia by far, because that one, it's like, in my opinion, that movie is literally a magic spell that Disney is casting into the world. And if you know anything about magic rituals, the only thing that makes a magic ritual so magic is the intent and the fact that you're repeating the same thing over and over. So it's like the witches or the people that like sneak into like mountains or like, old abandoned houses and stuff, and they repeat these rituals that people had done hundreds of years ago. The concept is that area is like charged forever, and if you go and do your magic ritual in the same place that other people have been doing it, that you're kind of like using everything that they've built up on and emphasizing what you're trying to do. So like a Disney movie is quite literally like a magical spell, and every time someone puts that VHS in and hits play, they're basically going back through this magic ritual. And in Fantasia, it's so freaking specific because even the god Chernobog, who's the black demon guy that has the big horns, as their that's like the main animation of that movie that I remember. That silhouette of Chernobog becomes the Disney villain for damn near every single villain in all the Disney movies that come forward. Like if you think about Maleficent, for example, she's got the exact same silhouette with those big horns. That comes from Chernobog. And the whole premise of Fantasia is that Mickey is the sorcerer's apprentice, and he like gets into the magic, and he accidentally like spills it out into the world, and that is Walt Disney, because the guy's name is Yesed or something, which is Disney backwards. And that basically is Walt Disney casting a magic spell to create what he considered like this Walt Disney universe, like this Disney World thing. And I mean, it's so big now that it's going to outlive anyone that we know on the planet, right? Disney's going to be around, even if it's just in like a textbook somewhere, it'll be around for at least another few centuries, probably. Like people will know who Mickey Mouse is in 100 or 200 years from now. So in that regard, like the magic spell worked, and every time someone plays Fantasia, it's like casting that spell again.
And they re-upped, right? They did Fantasia 2000. They just like remade it or something, right?
Remastered.
That was a hard one, man, because that one was kind of like Walt's been dead. They don't really understand like the original vision anymore. It's gone completely corporate. Decisions are being made based on like market research. Like Walt was definitely taking some temperature checks, but he'd walk in a room and be like, I don't care what anyone says. I don't care what you say or what like the audience says. Like we're doing this one thing that's my vision. Like there were some stories where when they were doing Jungle Book, he went and told the writers and the animators, and he's like, hey, has everyone heard of the book Jungle Book? And be like, yeah, I haven't read it. I'm gonna go and check it out. And he's like, no, don't. Like, I don't want anyone reading the book. I don't want anyone to know what the book's about or how the story goes. All you need to know is that here's the character you're gonna draw, and I'll worry about the rest. And he kind of does this because he's leveraging just like a magical spell, right? Like you're taking all of that energy built up in these like well-known characters, but then you're just like redirecting them, and like now this guy's gonna sell toys, and that one's gonna sell shirts, and this one's gonna sell shoes. You know what I mean? Like that's what the story was in the back of his mind in some way. So I think that there's like a weird place that as soon as Disney left, you can kind of see like literally the magic kind of escaped a little bit, and they're kind of riding the momentum that Walt left them, you know, before he passed.
And he was so open about it too. Like everything was magic.
Jeez, this is all new to me. I didn't know before he died.
Mm-hmm. He didn't even get to see the Disney World be completed.
Wow.
But it was a vision in his mind. He saw everything. Like
Jeez.
I think his son or his nephew or something like that. There was somebody that went into Disney World and said, it's sad that Walt never got to see this. And he said, you're crazy, because this was Walt's vision.
Mm-hmm.
He already saw this before he ever created it.
Jeez.
Yeah, dude, and like he had some wild ideas, man. His idea for Epcot, so like the actual term Epcot, it's like experimental prototype city of the future. So I can't remember the exact definition, but it was a futuristic city, but it was going to be like this weird kind of like communist state, like a Mickey Mouse communist state, where everyone that worked there had to be like under a certain age. If you like broke a leg or you got too old to work, like you weren't allowed to live in Epcot City. It was going to be an actual city, like a neighborhood that had its own gas station and grocery and everything. Like you would never have to leave this property, and you could work for Disney. And it was going to be like, you know, living on the company's store essentially. And after he died and it didn't come to complete fruition, I mean, it turned into what it's got now, which is basically like a theme park. But his idea for that was like, he didn't like how the United States operated, and he wanted to create a different prototype city with a different government, everything, and use that to show the world, like, here's how we can change society as a whole. It just, you know, now they just have roller coasters, but like the original idea for that was so much beyond a theme park.
Like a Disneyland Vatican.
Right? Oh.
Isn't there like
15-minute city?
They have like some at Disneyland have some of their own like certain laws, and the government has to have permission to do stuff there.
They used to.
Just recently.
They just changed since.
That's a DeSantis thing, because DeSantis was warned against Disney corporate. I think that was mostly in Florida, and that's because back in the day before Walt built Walt Disney World, he had like first he wanted to be secretive because he didn't want other people knowing that he was going to Florida and saw this as like this promised land. So he created like 5 shell companies and hired people to like act as representatives of those shell companies, and they went out and started buying all these like little plots of land. And as soon as people started catching on, they knew what he was doing, but it was too late. He had amassed way too much land, and the amount of land that he had and the fact that it wasn't really being used for anything except up to that point, it was like swampland. Like he kind of became the owner of like a de facto city. Like he wasn't like a mayor or anything, and it wasn't that official. But as Walt Disney World and the area around it started to grow, that did become its own little city to where they've got their own police force, they got their own ambulance and everything. A lot of the time, people ask me like, "What's the dirtiest Disney, secret that you know for a fact?" And it's like I've never seen anyone die on property, or like I haven't seen a cult like sacrifice, but I do know for a fact because I saw this happen a few times where someone would like collapse, they have a stroke or like whatever, they would have like a major medical issue, and they wouldn't the Disney people wouldn't allow medical person to like declare them as alive or dead. They would drive them off of property until they became part of like Orange County proper, and then they would check to see if they had a pulse because they wanted to make sure they could tell people that no one's ever died on Disney property on paper. You know what I mean? And because they owned it, I don't know if you've ever seen like The Wire before, like the show The Wire.
Yeah.
But like, dude, the homicide detectives would be doing this all the time. They'd like find a dead body and be like, if we just like move this body 2 miles to the west and drop it in this river, it's their jurisdiction now. Like they have to solve the crime. We don't have to do it. And it's kind of what Disney was doing for a while. And that's the only one that I knew personally, is that, someone got hurt, but you can just extrapolate that to all the dirty things that you can do by making it seem that nothing bad ever happens on like the right side of this imaginary line, but all this bad stuff happens on the left side of that line.
Yeah. That's
Like sneaky, Disney feel safe. Yeah.
Yeah.
But they have like one of the biggest police forces in Anaheim, right? Or no? Disneyland?
I don't know. I mean, they have downtown Disney. It's just like the downtown area.
They have their own.
Well, they're really good about it too, though. Like they're like super militant, where they'll actually pull a lot of people over for speeding around that Disney area because they actually want to keep it safe and limit the amount of people that are like dying just from roadway fatalities. Because I-4 in Orlando, in the whole state of Florida, is like one of the deadliest highways in the nation. I think it like always makes the top 4. So Disney, like they have their own police force because they actually enforce the law like way more than anywhere else in Orlando kind of does. You know what I mean? It's kind of wild seeing them actually clamp down on stuff.
Do they have the same standards for Disney World too? Do they kind of run it like they run the one in Florida?
Disney World is the one in Florida.
Yeah, Disney World's the Florida, and I don't think they've ever had the same kind of jurisdiction in Disneyland. And Disneyland is like nothing compared to Disney World. Like it's like a store inside of a mall versus like having 10 malls.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, the other one I was going to ask you too, not to jump back and forth, but the Great Mouse Detective, that used to be like probably one of my favorites that we had on that.
I don't remember the Great Mouse.
Well, dude, the Great Mouse Detective, the whole plot of that movie, spoiler alert, is about taking over the ruler of a nation and replacing him with like a robot that you can control from afar. Which, like, if you watch it now, you can imagine it's about like someone doing a Joe Biden clone or creating an AI version of a candidate, right? Because the Great Mouse Detective, they were trying to replace like the queen or something of like some Mouseville with like a little robot. So yeah, they all have great correlations, man, except for Winnie the Pooh. Fuck that movie.
Yeah, this is
yeah. Hey, it ain't no This Is McGuire movie. That's for sure.
No, it ain't Miranda.
It ain't Miranda.
It ain't Miranda.
Yeah, because that one I was like, I wonder what the symbolism with that is. Because my cousins, this used to be one of their favorites. I was like, I'm gonna have to like send them this, be like, watch this while you're at work or just chilling.
That's if they like that movie. Honestly, if anyone likes a very particular Disney movie from their childhood, I recommend go and watch the Occult Disney episode of it. Unless it's Sword of the Stone, I wouldn't watch that one because you'll never like the movie again.
Really? It's that bad?
It was my favorite movie or one of my top 3, and now it's like I don't even know if I would pause if I saw it on TV. I'd probably just keep scrolling.
Okay, what about the fox?
It's all about an old dude trying to bang a little kid. That's the entire movie, seriously. And
Not the Fox and the
Not the
Hound.
Fox.
No, I know Sword in the Stone. I wanted to know if you got to do
That's
the
the one
fox and
with
the
King
hound.
Arthur. Right?
Yeah.
It's
That
like
whole Camelot story is whack though.
yeah, but what was the one movie with James Franco and Kenny Powers?
Into the World? Is that
No, not that one. It was the one where they're like,
Pineapple Express?
No.
It's medieval.
Your Highness.
Oh, you're right. Yes. Yeah.
Where that weird little wizard guy was trying to.
Mhm. The Holy of Holies.
that was a good movie.
So it makes me kind of reminds me of that. So I'm like, oh,
Did TBD? You had a question, right? Sorry.
Oh, I was asking, did you do the fox and the hound?
Yeah, no, we did The Fox and the Hound. It's probably one of my favorite like actual Disney movies. That one was we did mostly a deep dive on the actual origin for the Fox and the Hound, because I think the guy ended up going and like living in the woods in order to like see how foxes would operate. And I think that this might be a different movie, but it was like in the similar vein where they had like the writers go out and observe nature, and one of the guys wanted to like train a falcon or something, but he was a city slicker, so he's got this falcon and he's like feeling bad, so he's like constantly giving it treats. And apparently the way that you're supposed to train a falcon is that you basically starve it, so that when you bring it out to go hunting and it finds food, like that, the only food that it's eating is when you're bringing it out hunting, so it associates you working with it and being a hunter with eating. And this guy was like constantly feeding it snacks, so he goes to take it out hunting, and the bird had never developed that relationship of like, I need to stay with you in order to get fed. So he goes hunting and the thing flies off and it just never comes back. So I don't know, that was one of my favorite side stories of this. And it's just like, this is kind of what happens when some creative artist city guy is like, I'm going to become a falcon hunter. And it's like, it doesn't quite work like that.
jeez. Now, do you have to pay for your Patreon to see those ones?
No. The only stuff I usually have on my Patreon, I just put things out maybe 2 weeks early, up to 2 weeks early, and then
Okay.
sometimes I'll do like an uncensored episode, because I do some lives, and sometimes the lives go like way off the rails, like way off. Like someone in the comments will start some shit, and so usually I'll edit it back down. So I've got like the non off the rails version for YouTube and stuff, but then I'll put like the off the rails version on Patreon.
I was going to try to find the Fox and the Hound one for TBD.
Oh, don't worry, I'll find it.
It's definitely in there, yeah.
That's one of my favorites.
I think I was looking at the Rumble one, so I wasn't seeing it. And then you had the Tiger King on?
That was on Reality Czars that I do with Nate, who's the host. Like me and Nate co-host that show. But yeah, we had Tiger King on, and he was in jail, and the connection was really crappy. But I managed to get in a bunch of rapid fire questions, and we asked him if he believed in Bigfoot, and then we asked him if Michelle Obama had a dick, and we got to ask him like a bunch of questions that I hope that no one else that was doing Tiger King interviews got to ask him.
That's hilarious. Oh my
And
god!
it turns out most people in the comments, but they say that Tiger King's like a typical boomer, so like he believes all the typical boomer stuff.
Okay.
That's too funny. Yeah, you have a lot more, I think, on YouTube than you did on Rumble. So I'm like, holy crap, I should have been pulling these ones up. Got Pocahontas.
Oh, that was crazy.
Rumble just makes it harder to find all the videos. Like they're on there, but sometimes they just don't come up in searches because Rumble being Rumble.
Yeah, I think I was just looking under all, where it probably should have been like under your videos. Oh, that's the same too.
Dude, they pretty much they're all wild. They all have some pretty wild backstories. Pocahontas has been kind of done a little bit. Like people kind of know that aspect of the backstory on that one. It's the sleepers like freaking Lizzie McGuire movies that really end up surprising me.
Okay. Jeez. Yeah.
I mean, my favorite is The Lion King.
That's a good.
Yeah.
So the Lion King has got some of the most widely speculated ones, like where they jump in this big cloud of dust, right? And it goes into the sky, and it says what a lot of people say it says sex in the sky. But again, this is like what is more nefarious,
That's
that
like a weird trace.
that like
You're
some
like,
7-year-old might, if they can read, that they'll pause the screen at this exact frame and read the
Yep.
word sex, or if they don't read it, that it's like subliminally putting the word sex in their mind. But it's like they walk out of the movie theater and they probably see an advertisement for like barbed wire with Pamela Anderson when Lion King was out, right? So it's not like, what is Disney showing, like flashing the word sex really quickly? So the mundane explanation of that one is that it was done by the Lion King animation was done by a new special effects wing of Disney Animation Studios, and as like their own little internal Easter egg, they wanted to put SFX into the sky as like their watermark of like, this was a really hard scene to pull off with all this dust moving around and dynamic. So they were giving themselves a little nod. So, and it, because of the nature of it, the F kind of looks like an E. I don't know. You can make up your mind. Like if you really want it to mean sex, then just what's the next conclusion of that? Does that mean that if I just held up the word sex really quick right now, like what are you going to do about that? Are you going to go and do something like really nefarious? Yeah.
Now I have a question. Now, do you see like the same type of correlation with other conspiracy theories, like where people can misinterpret something and it may get twisted to, you know, when there was actually an initial thought behind the process of something, and then people kind of misconstrue it to be this.
Yeah, well, it was like I was saying before that like when I watch some of these movies, you got to put on like a certain kind of hat, and it's like if I wasn't wearing my tinfoil hat watching Lizzie McGuire, right, I'm never even gonna think like she died in the bathtub, and now there's all this symbolism that backs up this theory that she died in the bathtub. But that's only because I had that hat on. Some people, they've got that hat on all the time. They go to the ATM machine, the hat's on. They go to the grocery store, the hat's on. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think I could live my life with the hat on. I used to think I was like the biggest conspiracy theorist ever, but it was like relative to my little bubble. And the more that I started coming out and doing this and talking with other people and like becoming like attracting other people to hit me up and share experiences, I realized like I'm vanilla as hell when it comes to like my actual beliefs and conspiracy theories. It's like one of the big ones for me that I just never got into was the shape-shifting reptilians on TV. Because the same moment that started getting really popular, I was in school doing video editing, and not just like Final Cut, but actually working on MPEG 4 compression algorithms and actually understanding how MPEG compression worked, where you've got this like list of predefined. I won't get into the nitty gritty of it, right? But like as people were sharing these clips and like, look at this chick, she's turning into a reptile live on the news. And I would watch the clip and I'd be like, oh, that I know exactly what happened. That they in the stream, they lost a keyframe. And usually the way MPEG works is it keeps having to refer back to the previous keyframe, and it pulls from like predefined shapes in that frame and it just kind of rearranges them. But if you skip a keyframe, it freaks out for a little bit because it doesn't have those shapes to rely on. So it just kind of starts filling in gaps. And that's usually what you see is that weird like effect. But some people are just beyond the same people that are like, no, man, Keanu Reeves has definitely been alive for 800 years. Look, here's a picture that someone scanned from like sepia tone, you know, daguerreotype, and it's totally him. Like, I get it, and I like entertaining those thoughts, but I couldn't like make that my reality where every time I see something, I'm like, that guy's a time traveler and he's a werewolf and that guy's a secret Satanist. And yeah, so I mean it's all about like the hats. So I can only wear that hat so often.
How much do you think, because you know they say they're trying to put subliminal messages towards kids, how much Disney stuff do you think is actually aimed at adults? You know, they know the parents are going to be in movies with their kids, so the subliminal messages that they're putting in are actually for the adults that are there with their kids watching.
Yeah, I mean, I think that subliminal messages in general, they probably work better when it's just showing you like the symbols. So like the best subliminal message in my opinion is when you see the character with like they're saying a catchphrase and they're making like a quirky little pose, and then you see that exact pose on the side of like a French fry box, and like you hear that exact phrase when they're telling you about some new mattress or like a new car deal that's going on. Like that to me is the most subliminal aspect of it. When you say how much of it is oriented towards adults in particular, the best example I got are the remakes, right? Like when Disney remakes The Lion King, who did they make that for? Did they really make that for little kids? The kids don't care about what they do, and this one is a little bit out there conspiracy theory wise, but like Disney knows that it sucks and they make it anyway because people are gonna go see it, even either they hate watch it or they heard how bad it was and they want to see it, or maybe they like The Lion King and they've got an affinity for it, so they go and watch it. But then every single time someone goes and sees that remake and they're like, man, that wasn't as good as the original. We should watch the original. And then they'll take it out of the Disney vault and it'll be on sale for 6 months for the first time in 8 years. You know what I mean? The Lion King, you can finally get it out of the vault. So I mean, I feel like that is specifically made for the adults, because the adults are like, I saw that as a kid. I want to bring my kid to see the new one so I can relive my own childhood, but also like have this weird corporate bonding experience where we're like transferring our programming through the generations. But then you both watch it and you look at each other and you're like, that movie sucked. And you're like, let's go and watch the original one. So now Disney just got you to watch 2 of their movies, potentially buy both of them. You might go out and get like a Lion King thing to like, memorize that moment. Like, oh, me and my kid just went and saw this movie. I remember when I saw it, let's go get you a Lion King shirt. Like all that happens, right? That's not far-fetched.
Well, one thing that I heard too, I'm pretty sure it was Sam Tripoli that was talking about it. He was saying how like things that they're recreating today have such different different undertones, or they'll change things up so much that you're like, they don't want you to remember the same things as your like grandparents and stuff, or like to kind of have that connection with your family or something from back in the day. Like say for example, like, oh, I remember watching The Little Mermaid, and then they go watch The Little Mermaid now, and it's like a little black girl with red hair, and they're like, I don't.
But it's the exact same thing though, because if you look at the Hans Christian Andersen story that The Little Mermaid cartoon was based on, that Little Mermaid was wildly different than the Little Mermaid that Disney made. The same way that Disney tells them, don't read the Jungle Book. Like, we're just using the characters and we're going to tell our own story that's got nothing to do with the Jungle Book. Like in Little Mermaid, the premise was that the mermaids realize that when they die, they just turn into like sand. Like they don't have a soul. They have no afterlife. There's nothing at all to look forward to. But if they can convince a human, they can get a soul. One is they can convince a human to love them, and then they get like a magical mermaid soul and they actually get an afterlife at that point. Or they can kill a human and steal the human soul. And in the original Little Mermaid story, she tries to gain the love of the guy and it doesn't work. He ends up falling in love with another human, and all her friends and family all try and convince her to kill him and steal his soul. And she's like, you know what? I'm not going to do that. Which is a wildly different story than the cartoon we get, where it's like she loses her voice, right? If you consider when Ursula steals her voice, that's really the original premise, is that like she never had the soul to begin with. So she's at that point, her incentive is to get love from the human so she can get her voice back. But really it was like she was going to steal his soul.
Okay. Jeez, I didn't know about
that. And that's what mermaids' roles usually were, right? They would lure humans and they would kill humans, and it was because they were trying to steal their souls.
Sirens, right? Called sirens.
So most of these Disney movies were based off of original books, right? Beforehand.
Yeah, damn near every single one. I think almost all of them that we've watched so far has been based. A lot of them were on related to Grimm's fairy tales. He pulled from that one a lot.
Oh, okay.
But he would switch them up constantly. Like almost none of the stories really follow it beat for beat. The ones that do tend to be the more boring. Like the Winnie the Pooh one kind of follows the Winnie the Pooh story beat for beat.
Boring. My sister Winnie the Pooh. I'm just giving a crap. Now, and then I was going to ask you too about the all right, so the reptilian thing, right? You see people on the TV. So I totally understand when things are either glitched out or they just like, I don't know, some things just look super weird where I'm like, I don't know if it is AI anymore. And I think that's kind of where we're getting at now. But I just wanted to show you a quick clip. This lady. You ever seen this yet? Oh, come on,
yeah, so this one doesn't, I mean, there's like a fly on her face.
Yeah, it comes out of her eye. And then she eats it.
No, she spits it out.
I think she swallowed it. It's coming out of her eyeball.
It just landed on her eye, bruh.
I mean, I would say probably just landed on her eye, but yeah, maybe she eats it. I mean, you know what's even weirder and worse than that is when Hillary Clinton coughed phlegm up into a cup and then drinks it back down on live TV. That one was like even worse than eating a fly.
That's your
She
song,
did?
right?
That yeah,
Is that-
I wrote a song about that called "What Was in Your Cup."
Yes, I saw. I was like, I don't
Oh.
get this concept. I'm like, what's in your
That'd
cup?
be my
I was like, that
favorite.
sounds like our first icebreaker. What's
Wait,
in
did
your
she
cup?
really do that? Like, cough them?
She really did that. Yeah, she was on the podium. The cameras were on her, and I think that like she had a tickle in her throat, so she went to go get a cup of water and to like calm it before she starts coughing. But as she's drinking it, she coughs, and you can see a huge chunk of like green phlegm
Boogie.
come up into the glass. And then she like dips it back down, and you see it slip back down into her mouth, and she swallows it all on live TV when she was making a public appearance. It wasn't like she was in the background and something else was going on. Like she was the focus as this happened. It's I'm never gonna forget that.
Neither am I, and I haven't seen it.
I feel like I have it somewhere. I'm like, dang it.
Don't show it.
Yeah.
No.
I think I
don't
just got the Nancy Pelosi one saying I'm reptilian. But I definitely have some like videos. Like, you ever seen this one? I mean, I got a bunch like saved up and stuff just to have as my on my highlights and stuff like that. But you ever seen this lady? Like, I don't know. I
That
feel
was
like
kind of wild. That was weird.
probably from a movie, right? Oh, I guess German comedian Carol. Oh my god! Oh no! Yeah, I don't know.
I mean, to be honest, man, even if I saw this in real life, I would still think that it was like a trick. My mind wouldn't go immediately to like, and they're an alien. You know what I mean? That's
No,
usually not in my top 50 of the options that I run through. Like aliens and reptilians are usually not in my first thoughts.
Yep.
See, I'm not. I've become a realist.
Yeah. Except for this guy, he's definitely a reptilian.
Ripped.
Gruesome Newsome.
He kind of looks like Walter Goggins there.
Oh my gosh, yeah, with the slick back hair, the bad hairline. You know who that is?
Yeah.
Okay. You haven't seen Fallout?
No, I.
Have you ever seen The Shield?
He
Yeah.
does look like Walter. He's the cool.
Yeah, he was the racist in The Shield, and then the racist in Justified, and then the racist. He plays like a racist in like everything he's in.
He's just good at saying the N word.
Oh,
Yeah.
He was a trade hooker for me.
yeah, he was a.
I think that's the first. Wasn't that like the? No, never.
I never knew his real name though. I just-
Yeah, Walter
oh,
Goggins. It's a fun name to say, man.
When you
Walter
said it, I honestly thought you said Walter Cronkite, and I was just like, I don't see it. And then you said, I was like, oh, I see it now.
When you said Walter Goggins, I was thinking David Goggins,
His brother, his less racist brother.
This is less racist, bro.
the light skin one, the
Yeah.
light skin one.
Is it weird that he's one of my favorite actors?
David Goggins? No, I'm kidding. Sorry, too soon.
Now, what about in terms of views with? Let's segue into a different section here. Now, what about secret societies? Now, you had mentioned before that you kind of take your hat off when you have to. Now, where it concerns secret societies and stuff, is the same apply? Or do you see like all secret societies as like all trying to take over the world, all trying to, you know what I'm saying? If that makes sense.
So like I'll out myself just so someone's not in the future like, oh, he didn't mention this. So I've been a Freemason for 16 years. So technically I'm like in the thick of one of the ones that's claimed to be like the main secret society. So yeah, I mean I've got a little Freemason hat that I can put on sometimes too if I'm like watching something, but I think that secret societies are kind of an outdated concept now, right? So like right now we've got LinkedIn. This is the best analogy I can come up with, a LinkedIn analogy. So on LinkedIn, you can work somewhere and then move across the country, and you can tell people like, hey, here's my work history. You don't have to just take my word for it on the resume that says I went to school here and like I worked at this place and they loved me there. You know what I mean? Like it was so easy for the longest time before the internet and before sites like LinkedIn existed. you could just lie and be like, oh yeah, I got a PhD here and I worked over here for 8 years. I was at NASA, and like, what are they going to call someone up and like do a lot of the times jobs didn't do that, or they couldn't do that. So for the first like 100+ years, maybe 200 years in this country, without LinkedIn, if you moved across the country, no one could really trust you, anything that you said. You were just some stranger that came from out of town. So now you got these like Freemasonry in particular. You could move across the country and say, no, I'm actually an upstanding citizen. I've paid my dues, which is a Freemasonic concept. And you can look into it because the Masonic lodges, they would keep down who paid their dues on time, what your name was, when you joined, who you joined with, like the lodge number, the city, all that. And they had such a tight network worked out that if you went to California, this is an example, you went to California and you left the lodge in Florida, they had an easy way to communicate with that lodge over a standard network of communication, like everything. And they could say, hey, is this person really like an upright standing citizen? And if that Freemasonic lodge said, yes, they are, here's, all the cool things that they did, or they would be like, I don't know, like the guy's a little bit of a wild card. Like you could actually rely on the Masons to convey that info. But now it's like that same thing is replaced by LinkedIn. The secret meetings that you would have to go to and like run the world, like that could be a Zoom conference call with a secret passcode for like just the CEOs of the company and stuff. So I think that as soon as the internet came out, it lost almost all of its like real utility, which was being this like the secret network, like an encrypted network, right? That was what it was. Like when you talk about internet encryption, right? You talk about handshakes and ciphers, like these are all Freemasonic kind of concepts. So when the digital version of handshakes and ciphers started to become prevalent, it kind of put Freemasons out of business. So in that way, to kind of answer what you were asking, is like, I don't necessarily always see they're trying to run the world everywhere. What I see is like the echoes of a huge institution that was running the world for a long ass time, for hundreds of years maybe. But now it's kind of like, we're not drinking Coke Classic. Like we're on new Coke version 20 right now. You know what I mean?
With corn syrup.
Well, now,
yeah, dude, that's a perfect analogy. Like we're on new Coke with corn syrup, and we're convincing ourselves that we're like drinking cocaine still, like our grandpas were.
I was like, perfect.
Nowadays they carry just dues cards, right? Dues card.
What is it?
Nowadays you just carry a dues card, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, originally, because that was another thing too, is that for the longest time, all the Masonic secrets were secret, and people would try to publish books and they'd get murked, or the book would get mysteriously burnt up in a fire and stuff. So they kind of kept it close knit. But what are you doing with the internet coming out? So now people scan it, put it online, and this is like by the 80s, 70s or the 80s. Like all the secrets had been out. In fact, when Joseph Smith founded Mormonism, at that point, like the cat was kind of out of the bag. So all the secret code words and handshakes and symbols that you could do in like a courtroom that would maybe get the judge on your side, like all that stuff really did exist. But as soon as Joseph Smith blew the lid off of it, everyone was like, that guy screwed it up for everyone. Now nobody can trust the handshakes because anyone could have just bought it at the corner store, and now they know how to do the handshakes. So now the only thing they had was that network where you could call up a lodge and say like, hey, is this guy legit? The handshakes were kind of out the window. Now it's all that shit is like symbolic. You know what I mean?
I'm sorry.
I mean, I think that's probably the last remaining example of like a modern mystery school. You still got a bunch of smaller offshoots, but I think that was the biggest one. I mean, and even then, most people don't, you know what I mean? A lot of, like at this point, a lot of people join Masons as like a social club because they don't have a lot else going on. A lot of retirees, average age in a lot of lodges is probably veering towards like 70 or 80 at this point. There's some that have got a bunch of young guys that go out there, but if you look at the membership, it's literally just like a direct drop. You know, it's not like gradually declining. It just like from the 50s, 60s, and 70s, and then by the 90s, it's like a huge steep cliff. So I think in another 100 years, it'll just be a footnote.
Now, is Freemasonry and stonemasonry, is that the same or is that different? Or do they do a little bit of the same?
It's technically it's the so there's what you would call like there's actual masons that really build things with their hands and do architecture and stuff. So that is believe a practical mason, and then you've got what's called speculative masons, and that's all Freemasons. So it gets murky because someone can say like, yeah, I'm a stonemason, but unless they're actually building things and cutting up stone with their bare hands and using tools, they probably mean speculative, which really just means they take that entire profession and they use it as a foundation to put analogies on top of. So when you tell a story, it's all themed like it's like if you came out with a concept album, every song kind of plays with the concept that the album's based on. It wouldn't make sense if you just like broke out and broke the fourth wall. So that's kind of what a lot of Freemasonry is. But I think it's also why it has such staying power, because every other secret society group that was out there, like there's one called the Oculists that was based on like eye doctors, and they put all their symbolism on like how the eye works. And there's ones called like the Order of the Pug, which was a French Freemasonic offshoot. So when the Catholic Church banned Freemasonry, they kind of found this workaround where it's like, well, it's not technically Freemasonry because we worship a dog instead of this architect thing, but it was Freemasonry, but they call it Order of the Pug. But the reason why those things don't last is because like an eyeball doesn't last forever. A pug's not going to last forever. You know what lasts forever are big ass buildings that are made out of stone. You know what I mean? That'll be there for hundreds of years, if not more. So like not only does having masonry work really well as a foundation, like pun intended, because that's why they named it after that, but it also represents a physical thing that like your great grandchildren will still see out in the real world. Unlike almost any other analogy that they could kind of put it on.
Yeah, unless they cover up the buildings with just glass and window. I feel like that's what they do.
Or not knocking down like a World's Fair, right?
Yeah, exactly. Like I was looking at some of the videos and stuff, like going through Cleveland. Like I work up there, so it's like going through downtown Cleveland. You see tons of like cool architecture, but then you got the buildings that are just like glass and just the windows and stuff. Some of it is just like the first or second floor that's like you can tell is like really great architecture, and then after that it's just like a wall up of glass, and you're just like there's no how would I say it? There's no like quality anymore. Like you don't go into a city and you're like, man, this is a beautiful city. You just go in and you're like, I could see this being a 15-minute city in no time. Like they're trying to make it where you're just in and out. There's no reason to be there.
Yeah, it's like they're like IKEA buildings now. It's like they come in like little and you can, I mean, conspiratorial, but you can sort of thank the CIA for that in a way, because I think they're in the end of the Cold War. They brought over brutalism and abstract art, and they really were like pushing that. And like these buildings that are just made out of glass panels and just flat, or like Trump Tower kind of style, right? I mean, that's kind of very much brutalist inspired. Like they add a little bit of flair to it. They add some extra angles, but it's not a lot different if you go to downtown DC and you look at like the IRS building. It just looks like this big monolithic box that would like destroy you if you came too close to it, right? I mean, I feel like that is a very specific subliminal message that the government puts on you to be like, think in the box, sharp corners, 90-degree angles, like things don't have bend or sway here. Things are rigid and strict.
Yeah. And I had it was weird. We were listening to this podcast at my office. I'm trying to remember the guy's name. He's a comedian that does like conspiracy stuff, and then I think with his wife they do like conspiracy stuff like as a series for like Halloween time, or like around Halloween and everything. So one of the guys was like, I don't know, this was when I first kind of got into conspiracies, like probably 2019 or something like that. I was kind of getting into it a little bit more, and then we were listening to these podcasts and everything. So we were like in the office listening, and the guy starts talking about like the Freemason stuff, and my perspective of it was like Illuminati. Like that's just what I was under the impression of. Secret society. They're either taking over the world or they're doing whatever. So then
bagging goats.
Yeah.
Right and go.
Yeah, so we're listening to this episode and stuff, and when we get done with it, I was like, man, I don't know, I don't really buy it because he didn't interview a guy. He talked with a guy at like a bar that was like, yeah, I'm a Freemason, and was like, I'll tell you all the secrets, and was pretty much like explaining stuff to him, and he was like, what number are you, and whatever. The guy was like, oh, I'm really high up. He's like, he even had the rings and tattoos. I was like, that could be like he just wants to be more a part of it, I guess. I don't know. So anyway, so I was like, I don't know if I'm buying it. Well, my supervisor, she's like, oh, my husband's a Freemason, so is his dad and stuff. So he comes in the office, and the first thing he says is like, they're like, oh yeah, he doesn't really. He's like, he's not too sure about what's going on with like Freemasons and stuff, and like he thought, and we told him that you were, and he was kind of shocked by it. So he's like, oh yeah, he's like, we drink baby blood. Like that's the first thing. And I'm like, all right, well, I wasn't asking that for one, and I'm like, why would you say that of all things? And for me, I'm thinking like occult and Illuminati. I have no idea what Freemason is. This is just like the first introduction to it. So I'm like, why would he say that? That's very strange. And then he goes on to tell me, he's like, yeah, that we don't do that or anything like that. Like it's this. He starts telling me some things, but it's not like he's telling me secrets. And he was like, yeah, the majority of us are like, he's like, I'm a 6, and I'm like, you're a 6, and he's like, yeah, the majority of people don't even go past 6, and I was like, okay, well then how would you even tell me like what's at the top, and like if you're joking around like this. He was just, I don't know, he was a weird guy.
That was a joke too, the 6 number. Like that's not like, so it's really kind of hard to describe until you've kind of gone through and you've like seen how the structure works, because there's so much misinformation out there, and even like the official guides. This is going to sound so silly, man, but if you really care and want to know how like the degrees and the structure work, I think it's either like an idiot's guide to Freemasonry or like the dummies guide, or it's one of those on Amazon, like just like any other dummies guidebook. But the guy that wrote it is like legit, gives like everything that you would need to know to understand how it all works. Like like if someone sat down and read that this weekend, they would be more of an expert in anything Freemason related than I am, unless I read it also to get like brushed up, right? But basically there's 3 degrees in the initial Blue Lodge, right? That's Entered Apprentice, Fellow Craft, and Master Mason. Technically, in 2024 at least, I'd say that unless you're a Master Mason, it's almost like you applied to a job but you didn't make it past the 60-day trial or the 90-day trial, you know what I mean? So if you just get it to degree 1 or 2 and you never get to 3, some people take a long time. Like you can join and just get the first and take 10 years to get the second, another 10 to get to the third. But most of the time, because membership is declining, they don't want to scare people off with like it's going to take you 30 years to get the. So a lot of the time, you can get to the 3rd degree within a year or 2 or maybe 3 at the longest. And the second that you become a Master Mason, you can get all the way up to degree 32 within another couple years after that. So it's not like you would get to 6 and stop, because the fact that you even made it to the 3rd degree, that's as much of a Mason that you'll ever be in the rest of your life. And everything beyond the 3rd degree, it's like if you're in the Cub Scouts, they have their own little hierarchy. I can't remember what it is, but it's like Pueblos and the Cubs and then like the Eagle Scouts and all, like that's the actual hierarchy. But in addition to that very specific hierarchy where you actually are like graduating up, you can earn yourself all these badges and patches where it's like, I know how to tie a knot really good and I can do this really good. So if an Eagle Scout walks into the room and they've got 3 merit badges, right? But then a Weeblo walks into the room, which I think is like the lowest level in the Cub Scouts. They walk into a room and they've got 50 patches, right? It doesn't matter how many damn patches they've got. They're not bigger than an Eagle Scout. Like they don't get to rise up in the hierarchy. So all those patches are kind of ancillary to whatever their actual hierarchy is. And that's kind of a good analogy for the degrees 4 through 32 in Freemasonry. They're just like little patches that you're kind of like adding on. But if you're in the 7th degree versus the 6th, like 7th isn't above the 6th. The 2nd, you've got 1st, 2nd is above the 1st, and then 3rd's above the 2nd. And then as soon as you're on that 3rd, everything else is kind of like on this this horizontal playing field. and you can go and pick around. It's almost like doing little side missions on like a GTA quest.
Okay.
Well, it depends on which side you're choosing. York Rite.
Yeah, you can do York Rite, you can do Scottish Rite, and they have their own little degree workings. And York Rite tends to go harder into like Christian. They use the New Testament. They talk about Knights Templar and Christ, consciousness a lot. And then the Scottish Rite, they go more into Eastern esotericism. They talk about like ancient Persian gods and stuff. Like it's all just leveraging other people's religions and stories to like tell your thing, to like and do it and help you memorize stuff based on real legends that exist. So when you hear that real legend, it reminds you of like your Freemasonic programming. You know what I mean?
Are you in the line, or are you? Have you been in East?
Sorry, I couldn't hear you.
I said, are you in line, or have you been in line, or have you taken East before?
Have I taken East? I don't know what that means.
Have you been in the East yet?
Oh, I mean, so I'm in 32nd degree Scottish Rite. I never went through the York Rite degrees. And I don't think I'm on track for 33rd degree. My understanding is that 33rd's an honorary degree. So you can either proactively try and earn a 33rd degree by making yourself visible, the same way you try to get like a job promotion, right? You'd like volunteer for those extra things. You'd work, extra shifts and be just an all-around agreeable person and hope that you get noticed by senpai and they give you like some extra bonus, right? But if you don't do that, then the only real way that you can get that recognition is that you got to become famous, or you win like a Nobel Prize, or you like save a kid from a burning building, and then you can be nominated for like this honorary degree kind of thing. Like I'll give you an example. Remember Kramer from Seinfeld, who had like a fall from grace because he freaked out on like a stand-up show? Well, he got 33rd degree from the Scottish Rite Masons, not because of him freaking out on TV, but just because he became famous as Kramer and he happened to be Scottish Rite. I believe he got an honorary 33rd degree just because he was famous. You know what I mean? Because it's a way of like claiming them as one of their own. Because the Freemasons love to claim famous people because it's a recruitment tool.
Okay. So my understanding too would be like, not to say that it's bad, but if I was to try to compare it to like what I would imagine like the Illuminati is and stuff, it's like, or not, I don't even want to say the Illuminati because I feel like that's so.
Well, Illuminati pattern themselves off of Freemasonry. Like there probably wouldn't be an Illuminati if it weren't for Freemasonry setting up the template for them to follow.
Yeah, but I'm saying like if you had a group of people that were like, as soon as you get the bad apple in the bunch, it's like they almost get like a bad connotation towards everybody else. So it's like I feel like that's the same thing with the Freemasons, where like you hear about certain things and then some people get the comparison of like the Illuminati or the elite or people like killing people or sacrificing stuff, and then they try to put it into that like idea, or like Bohemian Grove. I would feel like that would have been my understanding of like that's what I would have thought Freemasons did. Like that kind of story where like Alex Jones, but that was just me not knowing. Like I have no idea how it worked or anything. But like understanding it now, it's like I feel like there's people that do good in it and stuff, and it's like a club where people come into it when they feel like they need it, or they're looking for like making new friends and being a part of something if they're not a part of something. Like for example, the military. Like when you're in the military, you have that camaraderie and stuff, and like that brotherhood, and then once you leave, you're like, where am I gonna find this again? And it's like I feel like that's a way where the Freemasons can probably be a part of that too. You could be a part of some club. You could feel like you're a part of something and have that camaraderie or like brotherhood or people looking out for you, just like you did when you were in the military. If you had that while you were in the military.
Well, it can go south. Like I would give you an example of like Facebook, right? Like people can use Facebook, the networking aspect of it, to build these movements and build groups and support things and use it for immense amounts of good, right? But at any moment, Mark Zuckerberg could, in theory, log into anyone's account and read any of your messages and send messages that look like it came from you to someone else. Like he could go and do all that weird. I think even if you guys follow like the Reddit drama of the last decade, but the guy that either ran, maybe he still runs it, Spez, during the 2016 elections, he was actually going into like Donald Trump supporters' messages. Like he's the one that runs the whole site, right? He would log in and edit people's messages and make them say stuff they didn't say because he was the one dude that wielded this power. He gets called out on it, and he was like, "I'm sorry, I overreached." But it's just like, remember that this big community that we're all like, we think that we're building stuff together and we're using it as a tool. Like the people that really run it, that are at the very top, at any point they could just dip in and completely like use you and make like completely repurpose what you've been building on and turn it into something bad. And now you're also part of that bad thing. So it's, I would say, yeah, Freemasons, exactly. There's the P2 Propaganda Do Lodge out of Italy. They were an example of embezzling money, murder between like Freemasons and the Vatican Church. There was a guy called like God's Banker that was involved in all this. So like just the fact that they've got this network set up, it's no different than Mark Zuckerberg at any time could do like the worst nefarious stuff using your Facebook account.
Yeah. I always put it this way with people who have like an issue with it. I always say like, because they're always like, oh, the Freemasonry is Illuminati. And I always think to myself, if there was something that ran the world, chances are you're probably not going to know about it. They're like in a group of 60 to 70-year-old men meeting in the basement of a lodge somewhere is probably not probably not the type of people that are seeking to try to control the world or you know, run things all over the world from, you know, podunk so, you know, city in whatever country or state you're living in, you know what I'm saying? So I don't know. I always think it's funny.
Well, look at like the GameStop run, right? Where like people get together online on like live streams and they're like, all right, let's pump this stock or whatever. Like it doesn't happen exactly like that, but that's kind of like the end result. That used to be something that maybe Masons would have got together and discussed in a tavern, and it's like, okay, on Tuesday we're all going to do this thing. But now, like, you don't need that lodge meeting. You can just live stream, or you can go on your private Telegram and be like, okay, at 8:00 we're doing this thing. No lodge meeting needed. You know what I mean? And it's not like it's any more or less secure, because even if you were to go to an actual lodge in a basement somewhere and try and meet in secret, you're walking by security cameras. You drove by a gas station that had a camera. Like, we don't live in a world that we're not already being monitored all the time. So now there's no reason to plot in secret in person. Like, we should just plot in secret on a Zoom meeting.
Yeah, right. Like, I'm trying. Who's the comedian that said, like, mine's something about they have the same interests? They don't really need to sit in a room and talk about it. They have the same interests. They went to the same schools.
Conspiracy guy?
No, he's a comedian that died in 2000.
So like Carlin.
Yes, Carlin.
Oh,
He said
yeah,
the same.
07.
He said the same thing. Yeah, I'm not sure. Don't quote me on that. I'm not sure if he died in 07, but I thought that
Fact
07
check.
was it.
Nah, I'm kidding.
But he said the same thing. He's like, it doesn't need to be a group. These people went to the same schools. These people have the same friends. They're in the same, you know, they go to dinner together. They don't need to really talk about it. They have like interests.
That's, I think, with like Bush. What is it? The Skull and Bones? I think that's the kind of clubs that I was like under the impression that Freemasonry.
Even Skull and Bones, I think, to a lesser degree, but it's also kind of like doesn't need to exist the same way that it did because of Zoom and Telegram and you know, instant Twitter messages and stuff. And I think that some of the proof of that was that I think they went co-ed in the early 2000s, and it's just like a regular frat now. It's a very elite frat because they only admit, I think, like 13 people a year, and out of those 13, for the longest time, there had to be like the musician. There would have to be. It's almost like a comedy movie. Like, you got to have the fat funny guy. You got to have like the black athlete. You got to have or both. You could have two in one. You've got to have like a musician. They'll have an actor. They'll have like a feminine looking person. They'll have a super skinny guy. Like they almost cast for roles for some of this stuff. But again, like, you don't really need Skull and Bones anymore to recruit someone into the CIA. For the longest time, you could only get into Yale if you were rich as hell and had, like, you know, you came from a straight up blue blood family. And then just being in that elite status, now it's like you're taking the cream off the top of that and turning them into Skull and Bones. But now you go to Yale campus and it's like you got, you know, Chinese exchange students all over the place and people that got all sorts of scholarships and coming from all areas of the country. It's no longer just the neophyte sort of children of like the people that are about to run the world anyways. So again, I think it gets phased out in big ways.
They're on Davos now.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
George Soros, the son.
Yeah.
You're like, they already got it set up for themselves.
I wonder how much.
Yeah, they're just on boards of companies now.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yes.
Like BlackRock or Vanguard.
Dude, BlackRock is probably what the Illuminati wishes it were way back in the day. You know what I mean? Because even the original Illuminati is one of my favorite stories. Because if you actually look into it, it was just a pyramid scheme with a dude that was out there selling like. Instead of thinking about it like a bunch of mystical guys in robes that control the world and like the ultimate puppet masters, it's literally one guy and his friend. The guy running it is going door to door. This is just an analogy, right? But he's going door to door and he's like, hey, we got this great new widget. It cooks and cleans and it does all these cool things, got all these features. All you got to do is buy into it. And he goes out and he sells 100 of those and he goes back home and he tells his partner, he's like, hey, I sold 100 of these things. And the partner's like, we don't make anything like that. We don't have a vacuum cleaner. We don't have things that cook and clean. And he's like, yeah, but I sold 100 of them. And that's kind of how the Illuminati started, is that Adam Weishaupt, he goes to all these people and he's like, we've got these ancient degrees and these ancient rituals and rites that no one's seen before. We uncovered them and I've been studying it my whole life. And we're going to start offering you to know what all those rites were in. And he's getting people that are like really rich and they've already been through Freemason degrees and they're like, oh, cool, you've got this new thing that I haven't heard of. I got to get a taste of that. You know what I mean? So he gets a bunch of people on the hook and he goes back to his homie, Baron von Nige, and he's like, hey, all right, I've got 100 people. They want to sign up, but I promised them that we're going to pass them all the way through like degree 20. And von Nige is like, bro, we've only got like 6 degrees. What do you mean 20 degrees? And he's like, you're going to have to get on that actually. Like by Monday, could you write the next, 15 degrees so we've got something for these guys? And he would go back and he would work and put together these crazy degrees, and they'd come in on Monday and Adam would be like, great, you got it all done. That's great because I just sold degree 40 to these 100 people. And at a certain point, Von Nige is like, bro, you can't keep going out here and selling degrees we don't even have, because now like I got to be the guy that has to go and do all this research and write everything up and make sure it works. And I'm the one conferring the degrees to these like huge people in the community. And I look like an idiot because they can kind of tell that I had to scramble to get this done at like the last minute. So it causes like this big internal strife. But like the whole premise of the Bavarian Illuminati was a guy selling shit that he didn't even make, and then another guy scrambling constantly to like make the product to sell.
That was a great breakdown.
Yeah, I'm like, I don't know about any of this stuff.
Good.
I think when people hear from that perspective, they're like, okay, well,
Yeah.
a lot of things just go down to capitalism again.
Makes sense.
Like, who's trying to make money and who's kind of on the back end doing all the work while the other dude's out there selling it or marketing it.
If you've ever had a job with a dipshit manager with another dipshit manager under him, that's kind of what the original Bavarian Illuminati was sort of based on, like those two middle managers scheming, and then everyone that actually has to do the work is like, these guys are just making work for us. This sucks. It's kind of, we're simplifying a little bit because he was working in the top echelon. Like he's like the people that they're selling this stuff to are like the top minds in all of Germany. And you know what I mean? Like in the Jesuit schools, they would go and get like the leaders of all the Freemasonic lodges, the inventors, the mathematicians, the scientists. And the other aspect of this is that you wouldn't know all the people that are in your secret society. You would just know Adam Weishaupt. So if I'm Adam, right, even if you're all in the Illuminati, none of you know that you're also in the Illuminati, and you're not allowed to tell anyone about it. So if like the two of you figured it out, then you fucked up because you let the cat out of the bag and you weren't supposed to let each other know. So now you're out. You know what I mean? So it's like the self-regulating thing. And what would happen is that you could ask me a question that I don't know the answer to. Like, hey, how do I create, like a certain chemical? And I'd be like, oh, I'll get back to you on that. I know exactly how to do that. And I'd write you a letter. Because again, it's not email, right? It's like you would write me a letter and I'd write you a letter back. So in the meantime, you're like, hey, how do I create hydrochloric acid or something? I just go and ask my homie, who happens to be your best friend, but you don't know that he knows this and that you're both in the same club. So you ask me how to do something. I ask him. He tells me. I tell you. And now all of a sudden, I'm perceived as knowing everything. Like I know all about science and history and math because I'm the one middleman for all the information that goes in and out. So now all of a sudden, everyone looks at me like I'm a freaking god, but I don't know anything. Like I'm the only guy that has Google. So you know what I mean? It's like I can ask Google stuff or I can ask ChatGPT stuff, and you don't even know that ChatGPT exists. So now I look like a genius, but really I was just shuffling peas around on the plate in a way.
Yeah, that's how Suno came about.
Yeah.
I'm like, what? You can do this? You're like, yep.
I wonder how many of these like groups got bad raps because of jealousy. You know how like you were saying like with the like Freemasons and then like with what are they called in college? Skull&Bones. You know how like they're all like higher echelon people and they go, hey, you know, I know how you can do this and do that, and they give each other like handouts and advice. And other people are seeing them working together like brotherhood, and they're jealous because they don't have that extra leg up. So then they start spreading rumors about these groups.
Yeah.
And now we have a bad perspective. Like, oh yeah, they drink baby's blood and they have sacrifices because how else can this whole group benefit and have more money and prosperity than us than if they were doing something?
There's definitely downsides and like really practical versions. So like I had someone that like their dad, they moved to a new town. I think this was somewhere in Germany, like modern day. He moved to a new town and his dad was like qualified as hell for this job that he was going up for, but there was a bunch of other people that were also going up for the same exact job, and on merit alone his dad would have got it. He would have had the job. It would have all worked out. But I guess one or two of the guys that were going up for it were also Freemasons in the same lodge as the guy doing the hiring. So now all of a sudden it's like you're definitely not getting that job over the Freemason because they've already got some kind of built-in rapport, and it's beyond just like they go bowling at the same place, right? Like they actually are in a very specific club, and they've kind of agreed that they would try and help each other out in a very real practical way. So now that guy's dad, even though he was the most qualified, he doesn't get the job. So you can extrapolate that like very mild example to all sorts of example. Like I'll just make one up that's probably less realistic, but like you're a doctor and like a kidney comes in and you're like, oh, patient A and patient B are both on the waiting list. All things equal, I've got a Freemasonic ring. That guy's got a Freemasonic ring. I'll flip a coin, you know, oh, that's crazy. The Freemason got the kidney. I'm not like, that's a really like kind of a crappy example because they have actual waiting lists and stuff, but that kind of favoritism does exist, and that's kind of that breeding ground for now. It's like, okay, what are we doing here? Is this about sharing knowledge, or now are we just like just doing nepotism at a different scale?
Yes.
I almost wonder if that's the same way as like USA Jobs, where they mostly hire people that were prior service military above anybody else. And if
I mean, well, that's the whole that's the premise, is that if you're in the Skull and Bones, you hire other Skull and Bones people. If you're in the Illuminati, if you're in the Freemasons, like you hire within your own ranks. And again, like that's kind of the LinkedIn aspect, right? Like you would rather hire someone in your LinkedIn network that you know has like been acquaintances with your acquaintances, because there's some assumption that like they're more upstanding, or because they've been public about their deeds. It gets into the weeds a little bit there, but it's just the fact that they've marketed themselves and another person hasn't, so they have a leg up.
Like with what you had said earlier, like most of the time when there's like negative stories that come out about these groups or secret societies or whatever, like let's just say the Masons in this connotation or whatever, let's just say someone became someone that was no longer upstanding within their community, and then they're no longer embraced or accepted by their community. So now, because you desire so much to have that connection with your people, you are no longer accepted, or when you go around, they're kind of like looking at you like, oh, this person's weird or whatever. So what happens when you realize you can no longer be part of that anymore?
I can't be a part of it.
If I can't be a part of it, nobody can. Now it's time for me to start talking about horrible things to have anyone and everyone hear what I need to say. And with that whole process, it's like if you're a group in this group, there are certain laws and regulations that probably say that you're probably not allowed to discuss this stuff publicly. So who you're gonna believe? Probably the guy who's out here spreading all this
Telling all the secrets.
telling all of the secrets or whatever he thinks to be the secrets.
Yeah, that's what I was saying with like the bad egg or the bad apple or whatever. It's like somebody, if they do something so bad, you're like, hey, you can no longer be associated with us at all, and like you're out. And they're like, well, if I'm out, you're all going down with me.
Yep.
And then you do like, well, this is this, and they start telling secrets within falsehoods, and then people are like, well, I don't know what's true or not because you said that is true, that is a secret,
right?
You shouldn't be telling us. But
well, look at the ACAB movement, right? Like the all cops are bad. That's basically the same premise that we're working on here. That like because like I don't even know if it's a minority, right? Let's just say that most cops are bad, but that's not the anagram. It's not MC. It's not McCab, right? It's ACAB. All cops are bad, meaning that there's not even one police officer on the entire planet that is actually altruistic. Every single one of them has to be bad, which is kind of a flawed premise to begin with. But I think the logic behind that, if someone were to argue against it, is because, well, if you're a police officer and you know that there's corruption and you're not spending time out of your day to like ferret out the corruption in your own local jurisdiction and your own police force, then you're kind of part of the problem because you're working alongside and therefore perpetuating corruption almost symbolically, which is kind of a silly concept though, because it's like if you work at Walmart or if you work at the gas station, I guarantee you there's somebody that's scamming something in your chain of command somewhere in the corporate aspect of that, right? And it's like if the CEO of the company gets caught embezzling money, it's not like every single person in the whole company was helping that dude embezzle money, even though on a technicality they were, right? Because they were like working for the company that the guy was doing. I think it's a similar analogy to that one, and it's just like the ACAB thing where some people legitimately take that stance of just like, you know what, those cops are bad and they've gotten a lot of attention, and I don't like how it's being treated, so now all cops are bad to me. That's kind of what the anti-masonry movement started in like the 19th century.
Yeah, and I think I was watching a video, or I was watching one of your episodes, and I think you told somebody you were a Mason, and then they started going off, and you're just like, oh my gosh, you had a hat on, or you had like some sort of mask on. That's like a joke. I can't remember, but I was like, man, this guy's like
doesn't make me a lot of friends. I'll tell you that.
But I think he was on your episode, or maybe you were on his podcast or something, or a guest on somebody else's.
Believe it or not, it's happened maybe 4 or 5 times now.
Really?
Yeah, where somebody gets really upset that I'm a Freemason.
Jeez. They're like, oh, my dad touched me. They're like, oh, no.
So I wonder how much of the telephone game is involved.
Oh,
So I'll tell the secret to you.
A lot.
And I go, you know, such and such's wife got rid of her baby. And then the next person goes, did you hear that the Freemasons sacrificed baby?
Yeah.
And he's like, whoa, if you go back to the first guy, that's
Yeah.
not what he said. But by the time it gets to such and such and such and such, now we have this whole.
Yeah. Or I almost wonder if they were like, if the possibility is you're trying to tell somebody a secret that needed to be passed on to them, but somebody overheard. And then that's where the weird, hey, I heard this is between somebody else, and these are the secrets. But then also, like, it's so outlandish because they definitely misheard it. And then they're trying to embellish a story. Like the fish was this big, you know, and you're like, they sacrificed this many children to Moloch. And you're like, I don't know if they do that. You're like,
Just behind everything, you just have to pay attention to everything because some stuff can be just completely left field.
for sure.
The other, maybe it's a bad analogy, but the other one that I've come up with is that like if you got a movie that has like a twist ending, like any M. Night Shyamalan movie, right? Or if we do like The Sixth Sense. Has everyone seen The Sixth Sense? Like I use that as an example. So in The Sixth Sense, imagine that it just came out, you saw the first matinee, and then like you're gonna go back that night to the movie theater. Like you could go up in front of the theater right as the movie starts and be like, Bruce Willis is already dead, you know what I mean? And just like ruin the whole movie for everybody. You might get your ass kicked for that because it's a secret that you're not supposed to tell. You know what I mean? And it's not that like if you find out that Bruce Willis is dead, your head explodes because your brain can't comprehend the knowledge. And it's not like it's going to summon a demon that you know that he's dead. What it does is it ruins the movie for the people that are about to see it. So now that when they see it, it took all the emphasis out. You kind of ruined the movie for them. They might be mad at you. The people that wrote the movie might be mad at you because you ruined the whole, like you kind of ruined it for everybody involved except you. You made it about you and ruined it for everyone around you. And that's in modern day, right? I'm not talking 19th century now. I'm talking about right now, 20th, 21st century. It's kind of the same thing with Freemasonic secrets where like you like, well, I can sit here and tell you all the secrets, right? But like me telling you, but if you're not even watching the movie, if we're just hanging out on the couch and like, and you don't even think about seeing The Sixth Sense, and I'm like, hey man, that Sixth Sense movie, Bruce Willis is dead the whole time. You're just like, that's cool, bro. Whatever. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like you don't care. You had no investment in it. So what I did though is that like I just ruined the movie for you. You don't even know it. And now if we ever did go and see that movie together, like since you already know it, I don't get to see your reaction and get like, oh, this is going to be so cool when he finds out that he was dead the whole time. I'm going to see his mind get blown. You might watch the movie and be like, oh, that kind of sucked. I kind of wish you hadn't told me the ending before we watched it. That was the whole point, right? So I think in a big way, modern Freemason secrets are kind of like that, where it's like, you're going to find it out anyways. So why would you want to have it spoiled when really it could be like this impactful moment for you?
Yep.
I think that if we're talking in the 1800s, like you might actually get killed for divulging it because not only did you rob someone of that experience, but now the idea is that you just gave a secret handshake to some dude that can go across the country and get a job by giving someone that handshake. And like he didn't earn the handshake, and now you might have lost a job for a real Freemason because he took it under false. That was like something you could get killed over. Now I don't think it has the same relevance, you know what I mean? So I don't think you're going to get killed over Freemasonic secrets, but the same oaths remain. Like they still take it as serious symbolically as if it were in the 1800s. But I don't think that they're actually murking people out there anymore.
Are those oaths or obligations?
They're oaths. Yeah, they're definite oaths. And it's the exact same ones. Like if anyone, this is the other part of it too, is if anyone actually cares what the secrets of Freemasonry are, just go look up the Freemasonic Monitor that was released in like the 1820s. Like it's not changed. Like it is exactly identical to what it's been in the 1820s. It's not changed in 200 years. So if you really cared about it that much, you could find every handshake, symbol, all the names you're not allowed to use, like everything is out there in the open. So now when someone's like, tell me the secrets, or like, you're trying to keep secrets from me, you're just telling on yourself that you didn't even do like the Google search to read the thing that you're apparently so passionate about.
Yeah. It's some things I'll see too is like always like the hand thing. It's like, oh, well, look at their hands. They're a Freemason. And you're like, I do that all the time. Like if I'm just sitting there like this or something, like just, I don't know, holding my hands a certain way or just, I'm like, I don't know what to do with my hands. How many times do you do something? You're like, I don't know what to do with my hands. And you make a little pattern by yourself. I'm not freaking trying to do the OA and go to a different dimension.
Yeah.
Hold my hands still without jittering too much, you know?
Well, also like that's the lowest way to the barrier for entrance. It's like, oh, if you just do this with your hand, now you're in the Illuminati. Like, bam. Like, I didn't have to kill anyone. I didn't have to earn $1 million. I didn't have to do anything. I just went boom, and now I'm in the Illuminati. That's how easy it is. It's kind of silly, right?
I found out about that, but I'm like, that's Diamond Dallas Page.
Right.
People are like, oh, that's Illuminati. Like, no, that's Russ DDP.
Yeah.
I don't. Or like, I think you showed me one where like this is supposed to be 666, and we're like, no, that's John Cena. Or that's the circle game where like, if you look at it, I get to punch you.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you got to be skeptical though, because like, how do you know what's what?
Well, I mean, there's also money to be made in having people think that certain things mean certain things.
Well, let's say I'll just do it, right? So let's say that really means 666. Like, is there a demon that's like now possessing you because I did that? Are you gonna like what is this doing right now? Is someone watching it and now they're gonna worship Satan where they weren't before because I went like that? Like I really want to understand when someone's like, oh my god, they're doing a secret Luciferian hand gesture. Okay, great. who's that message for? Who sees this on a podcast or on a movie or anything, and they're like, that's the ghost sign. Let's go and kill those kids now. Like, I don't understand what's the end of that sentence? You know, it's like, oh my God, they did 666. Okay, now what? Like, what is the reason, and what's the bad thing that happens? Or they do like we'll just do all, you know, all the things. Like, you cover your eye. Like, what is it actually doing? Is this like, that's a symbol? They're like, okay, rip, bam.
Yeah.
Now Hillary going to town, right?
No. That was a song of his.
Oh yeah.
I think all the real secret symbols are now in legislation.
For
They're doing
sure.
it right in front of us, and they're making us vote on it, not read like the whole. Oh yeah, we want to pass marijuana laws, but did you read all the stuff that gets to go along with it?
Yeah.
When you pass those laws, so all that secret stuff is like right in our faces, and we're only paying attention to the bold letters. No one's reading the fine print.
That's a very good point. I never even thought about it like that. It's like all the earmarks and bills. They're like, well, we'll do this to pass, and it's like, well, it's in their face. They could read it, but then the bill is longer than the Bible. And you're like, this has like 1,500 pages. You're like, nobody's reading that. But then everything's getting passed.
But then other stuff that doesn't get passed is because there's somebody that thinks like us, and it's like, wait, what about subsection A? Why is that? And then everybody votes because they're like, oh, we didn't know about that.
Yeah.
And it's like, so why is it there more border control?
Yeah.
Well, they tried to sneak this in there, so we had to vote the whole bill, or we could let that happen.
Or trillions of dollars to build a wall, but then you got hundreds of trillions of dollars getting sent overseas. You're like, wait a minute. If they're taking my taxpayer dollars and then they're just printing more, why am I paying taxes?
Exactly. Is money even real?
Yeah.
We live in the great fiction, man.
Yeah. But
Awkward silence.
yeah, no. Yeah. Do you want to pick a different topic, or you want to take a commercial break?
Oh yeah, let's do a commercial, man. I'll go grab something to drink.
I'll show these guys. You got a specific one you want me to show them? I got all of them.
If you've got NASA, yeah, definitely play the NASA one.
The Kubrick?
Yeah, the Kubrick one.
Okay.
Kubrick directing the moon landings, baby. Oh yeah.
The fake moon landing playset comes with a movie director, camera, fake moon rocks, and 2 astronauts. The Paranoid American playsets, collect them all. New from paranoidamerican.com.
Disclaimer: these are custom art creations and not toys meant for wimpy little new world order babies. Don't eat the art. Don't sue the artist. For more details, visit paranoidamerican.com.
Check it out at paranoidamerican.com.
Dude, that was like, those are hilarious to me. I'm like, I was playing them all one day in my office. I probably shouldn't say that, but I was playing them all one day for myself on my phone, and I was like, these are hilarious. I was like, how did you come up with all of these?
I mean, these are all just things that I wanted to exist. Like, I wanted that thing, and I realized that no one else was making it. And then instead of just being bummed out about it, I was like, maybe I should be the one that, you know, make the difference that you want to see in the world. So it's like, the difference I want to see are action figures. So that's what I'm working on.
He's the Walt Disney for conspiracies.
Yes.
He's making his dream come true.
Oh,
Exactly.
these are like the best, man. I was dying. I think the one I saw was like the Nephilim baby one with the R&B in the background. I was like,
Yeah, the Nephilim portal baby.
yeah. But do you care if we stop and grab a drink or something, or do you want anything else, or do you want to take a break? We could keep playing.
Yeah,
something.
grab me a Sprite.
All right. Drink it all. Damn it. My bad.
Yeah, we can do intermission. I'll go and I'll top up and we'll get a new hard iced tea here.
Sounds good. And we'll be back after this commercial break.
Come on, you bring the magic staff, and I'll bring the sin. Nobody knows about the trouble we're in. Come on, let's make some Nephilim.
It's the Nephilim Portal Baby playset. Comes with a fallen angel, Nephilim baby, and portal to another dimension. One of the Paranoid American playsets. Collect them all at paranoidamerican.com.
Disclaimer: these are custom art creations and not toys meant for wimpy little new world order babies. Don't eat the art. Don't sue the artist. For more details, visit paranoidamerican.com.
Coming soon! Merchandise from the SpeakInCOAD podcast. Help us choose what merch to sell. What's in your cup? What's on your plate? And other conspiracy jams memorabilia. Only found on SpeakInCOAD podcast. Help us make the choice today. Thank you. Thank you.
That's right, don't get me started. From your own web market, plan your own pandemic with the web Market Playset.
Plan your own pandemic with the wet Market Playset from Paranoid American. Comes with a miniature virology lab, bats, microscope, and more. The Paranoid American Playsets, collect them all. New from paranoidamerican.com.
Disclaimer. These are custom art creations and not toys meant for wimpy little new world order babies. Don't eat the art. Don't sue the artist. For more details, visit paranoidamerican.com.
Just simple planet and place it. It's so good you can taste it. Down here in the basement, with a super predator playset.
The Super Predator Playset comes with a shape-shifting reptilian politician, light-up severed head, jar of adrenochrome, Book of the Dead, and more. The Paranoid American Playsets. Collect them all new from paranoidamerican.com.
Disclaimer. These are custom art creations and not toys meant for wimpy little new world order babies. Don't eat the art. Don't sue the artist. For more details, visit paranoidamerican.com.
Oh, on the right side.
Speaking of it, I see you got a push back there, man. You make beats or something?
Yeah, that's where I got all this started. Was I was doing beat making, and yeah, like my connection to Wu-Tang and shit. I actually got to go on concert with Wu-Tang, and I've done some songs with like 12 O'Clock, which is ODB's little brother. I got a song that I did this year with RZA's brother, who's the ninth Prince, who's in Kill Army. He was the lead artist of that. The original Time Samplers series was actually going to have Gatekeeper from Gravediggers, who was also, his name's Fruquan, who was also in Stetsasonic. So I got like my music credentials were pretty thick when I was trying to do this thing as like a concept album. Like I was trying to get Sick Jackin from Psycho Realm, who's cousined with I can't remember who of them in Cypress Hill, but like I was running with all the people that I needed to run with to get some of this stuff off the ground. But it was just, I don't want to work with rappers, so I'll just put it that way. Not the highest work ethic in general.
Now, he let me hear some of your he let me hear some of your most recent stuff, and it seems a lot of it's Suno AI generated. Are you putting the voices over your beats? Are you allowing Suno to generate all of it, or how is the
I do a little bit of a mix, so it depends on what mood I'm in. But like one of the things that I like to do now is I'll generate vocals on Suno, and then I'll pass that through AI to extract the vocals to get just the acapella, and then I can remake a completely different beat with the same BPM and in the same tone and everything, and then re-link that with the acapella. And then similarly, I'll go on and I'll just generate 1970s Japanese cop theme song or something, and like do instrumentals, and then take those and put them into my MPC or my SB1200 or whatever, and like chop those up. And it's like, that's my favorite thing to do now, because I used to be a hardcore crate digger. Like I would drive around to flea markets and, you know, like yard sales and used bookstores and just go through those dollar bins looking for weird vinyl albums I'd never seen before. And now it's like that transition into me just downloading vinyl albums off of like weird like, you know, WordPress sites and torrents and stuff, where I was getting like crazy like Croatian funk albums that never made it over to the States. But now I can just go on Suno and be like, you know, Croatian polka, you know, jazz or something, and if it sounds kind of cool, now I can sample that thing, and there's no sample clearance, there's nothing. Like it's all like original property to work with. So the answer is like a little bit of everything. Sometimes I'll let Suno do everything, sometimes I'll make it do the lyrics, sometimes I'll make it just do the beat, and I'll mix it all together.
That's sick. Yeah. I see a future where everybody literally has AI on their phone, and if you want to have, like, you tell your phone, hey, today I'm feeling down, make me a song about my day today, this is what happened, and it literally makes them a specific song. So like there's no need for musicians or artists anymore, because you have it right here in your phone.
Well, I got a different vision on that. I mean, this isn't like a prophecy, just like what seems to make sense to me is that you still got musicians, like there's still going to be like a Kanye album that comes out. But in addition to you listening to that album, you add it to your library, and now the next time you ask Spotify, hey, generate me a song because I'm feeling down, and it's like Spotify also knows you gave most of the songs on that new Kanye album like 4 stars out of 5 or whatever. So now that song that's going to play for you, it's going to sound different today than it would have a week ago before you added that Kanye album to your mix. So it's like over time, your musical taste will be developed based on the real artist that you like, and maybe someone else puts out an AI song, you're like, I really like that, you add it to your library, and now your library is like smart enough to take little like the parts that you liked about that you don't even know and add it to all the next stuff coming out. So like in a way you're almost like a chef, and you're constantly adding to your spice cabinet. It's not like you got to put every spice you own into every dish you ever make. But it's in there so that when you feel a certain way, you can reach out and get that weird like white pepper from freaking Cameroon or whatever.
Yeah.
I think another weird thing about it too, though, is that like you won't be able to go up to your friend and be like, yo, did you hear that new AI song that it generated for me only, and only I've heard it? Isn't that dope? You know what I mean? Like no one's gonna have that same frame of reference. It'll almost be rare for even people to say a movie like, hey man, did you catch that movie that came out? Did you see Sixth Sense? And you're like, yeah, but my version had Jim Carrey and it was about like a unicorn. You know what I mean? Because that's what it generated for you. So now you don't got anything to talk about at the water cooler.
And Haley Joel Osment was the older version. He was the dead guy.
Oh gosh. No, he was Donnie Wahlberg in the bathroom.
Oh
man.
Right, when people, but that would be legit. People will be like, hey, did you see that new movie? But some people saw like the anime version, and this guy saw like the rom-com version of that movie. Like, you're not even seeing the same thing anymore.
It's crazy. So then what, people like essentially just share the movie, like, check out my version. No, check out my version. So everyone's sharing their version.
You're like,
I think so, man.
Jack as a genie, not the Marvel or DC movie.
I think a big part of this too, and I've been kind of seeing this firsthand a little bit, but it's like sometimes people like the song that they know more than a song that they would normally actually like way more. But people like hearing a song where they know the lyrics and they can sing along, even if it's a crappy song. You know what I mean? And I think that same thing's going to happen with all media, almost to the point where like no one's going to care about your version of the song because they got their own version of it, except for if like me and you just feel like we need to bond over something and like, man, we don't have any of the same songs, let's just pick this one song that we both end up liking. And I think that can expand to where maybe your version of Pinocchio or whatever, it's just like wild, and other people happen to like yours and it kind of catches on and it's trending. But like next week it'll be someone else's version of Pinocchio that everyone cares about and it's watching. So like you might miss that little moment in time to like share something with the rest of the world because it'll be different the next time you look at it.
Yeah, That's sad though. If you think about it, it kind of compartmentalizes everybody so that nobody has the same type of experience while we're.
But isn't that just breaking up the corporate programming too? On the other end, it's like now Disney can't program you the same way because everyone's getting a different message.
Well, that's not necessarily true, because if you think about it, they can program you specifically. So now I'm not programming 50,000 people who are watching one movie. Now I know what specific buttons to touch with you. So now I'm programming you. So now even the ads I'm pumping in the content you're consuming is all programmed directly to you. And all the music is programmed directly to me.
Right. Or are you programming yourself? Because that's kind of the promise, is that like
exactly.
if I let you invade my privacy and read all of my favorite songs and you can watch all my favorite movies, the promise that is never going to get delivered on. But the promise is like, and then Amazon will give me the perfect recommendation. Like they'll recommend me the best movie ever. It's like, no, they're not. They're going to look and see what movie they've got way more of, and they need to hawk it out. And they're going to be like, hey, we saw that you just listened to that new Kanye album. You know what you would really like? This new Miss Marvel movie is perfect, especially if you like that Kanye album. Oh, what's that? You like the new like Cannibal Corpse album? You'd still really like this. You know what I mean? You'd still love this Miss Marvel movie. That's what ends up happening, is that they use the fact that they think that they know all of your, preferences, but they're just going to be like, yeah, whatever, buy this thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah. You get people like me that are paranoid. I was like, only talk to this one person about this. Why am I getting 75 ads? You know what?
Yeah. I'm sorry, I wasn't trying to monopolize. Now, I feel like I am. But like going back to Suno and stuff, do you ever? I'm a musician as well. Now, do you ever wonder or worry about where they source the material that they're using to create?
I mean, I grew up in sample-based hip hop, so like we were stealing music since day one. You know what I mean? From anything and everything, man. I was ripping off Nicktoons. I was ripping music out of NES ROMs. Like everything was fair game, just like all the people that I grew up, falling in love with. Like all the original underground hip hop that I loved, like none of those samples were clear. They would hit it big and then be like, uh-oh, we need to clear these samples, and sometimes re-record them. And that's when you get like the cool B-side versions that no one hears because they were like uncleared. So I mean, I'm in a very specific bias where I've always felt like I own all the music. Like if you put the music out and it entered my ear, like I own that now. Like I can use that for my own purposes. I feel the same thing with a movie. If I watch a cartoon, like I don't care if the copyright on Mickey Mouse lapsed or not. Like if I'm gonna put him in a sticker or a T-shirt or whatever, and I know that you could get sued out of existence for doing that, but that's just how I've always felt. So I mean, yeah, it is stealing. I don't care. I don't care about that either.
It's a real G.
I mean, about as much as they steal from us. I mean, why not steal back a little?
Well, I'm saying in terms of like the artists, like being an independent, like indie artist or whatever, you put all of your material on SoundCloud or whatever. Let's just say Suno is now sourcing SoundCloud for independent artists. They're pulling all of that independent artist music off there and reformatting it or doing whatever they're doing on the back end, and that's the music that they're essentially using to create these generated sounds that you create. And that's something where as an artist, I'm kind of like, I don't know if I'm comfortable with that, because this is something I talked to Code about. I thought to myself, like, I don't know if I'm comfortable with the AI music thing, but I'm starting to realize that it's
maybe. Although, man, this might be a bad analogy, and also I probably am not in like the mainstream in my feelings of like I already own all music. I don't care. Like, yeah, it's stealing, and I don't care. You know what I mean? Like that's not a popular sort of way to go about it, but it's the way that people are upset. Like, I'm going to take down my DeviantArt page, or I'm going to take down my SoundCloud because I don't want Suno training on me. This is almost like a single grain of salt trying to like be like, oh, you seasoned your whole plate based on my one granule of salt. It's like there's a lot else going on in that pot of soup. You know what I mean? It's not just the one grain of salt. I mean, again, that's sort of like an extremist take on it, but yeah, I don't think that any one artist, because that's what you would consider overtraining in AI. And overtraining is when you give a data set that's got too much of one thing, because now everything it produces is going to sound too much like that one thing. So the whole point of AI training is that it trains on so many different things that you wouldn't be able to put your finger on every single generation and be like, oh, these all sound like Jimi Hendrix, or these all have like this very specific sound that only comes from this artist, or it all has a Disney look. Like that would be a worthless model unless all you wanted to do was make that particular type of music over and over, in which case it would lose its novelty. So the whole concept of Suno in particular is the variety and the being able to make like weird shoegaze polka and trap music and blues and all this stuff. And part of that is that, yeah, it's going to sample all your music, but I don't see it as stealing the same way, because it's not going to reproduce your song. And if it does reproduce your song, then it's shitty. It's shitty AI that no one's going to use anyways.
Right.
One of the things I was going to ask you was with the music portion of it. Man, what was I going to ask?
Questions.
Yeah. It was like something along the line. Oh, the one thing I do notice with Suno, it's like you get a lot of the same vocals, male or female. It almost sounds like it's a complete run through. There's been a few different styles that I've gotten. I'm like, oh, I really like this style. So it's like I almost want to stick with that style. But then it's like, oh, if I do rap, then I'm like, oh, I got to do West Coast rap or East Coast rap or Southern rap or something like that. And then
there's more tricks, man. There's way more tricks. Like, so for example, at the very top of us, like if you always have to, in my opinion, always do custom lyrics. Never let it write all the lyrics for you. Or even if you do, take the lyrics it generated and then go back into custom mode, because then at the very top, you can put hard brackets and you can write song info and then put things in there like genre, BPM. You can put one that says vocals and you can say vocals, gritty, raspy male. Okay. Or like deep female, or like all the, and it doesn't guarantee you're going to get that, but this gives you just a little extra amount of control. So when you mash generate 50 times on that song, now you're going to be getting a whole wide variety of stuff. And it also helps to like, if everything being equal, just throw in the word polka once in a while, throw in the word like Bavarian or like Czechoslovakian or Soviet, or in weird places it doesn't fit, because that might be the thing that changes the vocals to something that you haven't heard yet.
Okay. Because I tried doing like, what is it called? Mongolian. Like, you know, they do like that throat singing. I was like, oh, let me do this with like kind of get like a Viking, like war cry or some sort of music like that for like the Tartaria episode we did.
Well, so yeah, so the stipulation is that Suno's mostly trained on like American / like English music. So like you're probably not going to get a Gregorian chant or like a Mongolian throat singer, just because that, like, yeah.
It just sounds like
if you really want the Mongolian throat singing, the best thing is still to get it like an Akai sample CD or like a contact library and like load that thing up. Like that's where actually knowing how to produce music works, because a lot of thing too is when you make a Suno beat, it'll just be the same damn 4 to 8 bars over and over again. It might do like a little bit of a variation, but it doesn't actually have real chord progression and like the actual progression of a song that like a actual produced track would. So just bring that thing into Ableton, find out what pitch and what beat you're on, and then just kind of like lace those in, you know, throw the Gregorian chant samples in there and do like all those extra little bits are probably what makes it sound a little bit cooler than just like right off of the Suno press. Okay.
Yeah, because I did a few where it was like, especially making fun of people in my office. Jeez. Oh, hey, that happened. Where it kept saying like, they were like, oh, this person, they have a heart of gold. And then the next song I did for somebody else, it was like, they have a heart of gold. I'm like, oh. And then,
no, you're talking about the lyrics. Yeah, I mean, at a certain point, once you get over the novelty of doing the AI stuff, you'll notice like every damn song is generating the same lyrics, and that's causing in the background, Suno is just piping whatever concept you typed in to ChatGPT, and ChatGPT is spitting it back over to Suno. And if you ever use ChatGPT and like, hey, write me this article, it's always like, let's delve into the mysteries, and like it's always like the exact same little keywords that you can point out. So that whisper. Yeah, it's in the night where shadows creep, and like it's just like I've heard it a million times before. If it's the first time you've played with it, you might not pick up on these things that are obvious, but after you've generated like literally thousands and thousands of Suno songs, you're like, I can spot a ChatGPT lyrics from a mile away now, which is why I think the best way to do it is write all your own lyrics, because that also, especially in Suno 3.5, which is the latest version, in addition to reading the title of the song and the genre you place, it'll read the lyrics, and it kind of uses AI to be like, oh, this is a country song, or oh, this is probably a rap song because of the words and like the internal rhyming and just like the structure itself. So you might be like, I want to make this a death metal song. What if it's just about like a pickup truck and a dog? It might have like a southern twang to it, because the AI is like, I know what you're asking for, but what you really want is this, based on everyone else that's ever wanted this thing. So sometimes you're like fighting against that in weird ways.
Yeah. Like I did a reggaeton. I had a reggaeton as like the genre, and I'm like, oh, this is weird. And then I think by like the 5th one, I was like, now it sounds good. And then I let Chente listen, and he's like, I'm like, I was gonna make an album now.
It ain't bad.
Yeah. Well, it wasn't Bad Bunny.
Kind of like a game show opening.
Yeah. And then like for TBD, I asked him, I was like, I just did like a brief description of him or whatever, and then I was like, what kind of style? And like we're big into like pro wrestling and stuff, so he I don't know if he said metal or what he said, but
I did say metal. I was like metal and rap.
Yeah, metal and rap, and it came out. It sounded like a WWE entrance, like for a pro wrestler or whatever. I was like, this is crazy.
That's kind of on brand, yeah. I mean, and the other crazy thing too to keep in mind, which blows my mind just thinking about this, but right now, at this exact moment, right, 10 o'clock Eastern on June 8th is the worst it will ever be in terms of AI quality. Like, it is only getting better tomorrow and the month after that and the year after that. Like, at this exact moment, any complaint you've got about the lyric quality or the vocals being the same or any of that, like it's literally just got better between when I started saying this and now. Like, someone already checked in some new code that made it a little bit better.
Now with this, we need to switch over and talk about how we live in a simulated reality.
The ultimate conversation ender.
Yeah. He's like,
you know, man, nothing matters because we're all just in a computer program. It's like, okay.
Yeah.
I guess we all just go to sleep now.
Reboot. You come up in a new area.
Yeah.
Like,
now with Suno, one thing I did notice, because I got into Suno after Code let me hear some of the stuff you created. I checked it out and I put in like stuff in the instrumental, because you could like select instrumental in the custom mode or whatever. And what I did is I put like, you know, post-hardcore guitars with so-and-so, and I made sure that it was clicked on instrumental, but it would generate like 3 or 4 songs that had like this like a voice on it. And I'm like, okay, I put instrumental. It's not supposed to have any singing, but you can obviously hear that there's some sort of like mechanized voice that's singing over top.
That's just part of the process, man. It's another really good way that someone told me, one of my friend Andrea Zertis, he said that using Suno is like having your band get together, but every time you practice the same song, everyone plays it completely different. Like, they'll never play it the same way. Like, the lyrics will be the same, but it's completely different every time. That's kind of a good way of looking at it, where it's not like you're hearing the same song over and over. It's almost like you went out and hired 500 bands and then just coming in one after the other. It's like, okay, let's hear your version. Okay, let's hear your version. Like, sometimes you get lucky and the first like few you listen to, you're like, that's the one. Sometimes you got to listen to 100 of them until you finally find one that you like.
I mean, good thing they give you so many credits. They give you like 8,200 some credits or something like that. You're like, wow, okay.
I feel like what's the guy, Simon Caldwell, like American Idol or something. Like, when I'm going through the songs, we're just like, nope, that's crap. Nope, that's crap. Nope. You know what I mean? Like, another thing too.
That is so true.
It's the same way when I do like when I'm working on AI art or generating AI images and stuff. Like, imagine if you actually had an artist sitting down that like, and you're like, draw an owl, and they're like, shh, and you're like, no, that's crap. Do another one, and they're like, shh. And you're like, you know what? I want you to generate 100 of them. I'm gonna go and grab a sandwich. When I come back, I'm gonna look at all 100, and because I actually worked, at Disney with all these illustrators. And I just imagine now, if like I went to lunch, I came back, they had 100 drawings of owls, and I was just going through, going like, nope. That one's kind of cool. Nope. At a certain point, bro, like, they're gonna jump you in the parking lot. They're gonna be like, they hate you, and that's one of the things is that if you saw an artist took 8 hours to draw 6 versions of some character, like you probably got to pick one of those characters. Otherwise, like there's only so many times you can be like your whole day was wasted, do it again. You can only do that a few times until they snap. So there's always like this negotiation between the person commissioning art or music or animation or whatever it is. And it's like, even if they don't see exactly what they like, sometimes you got to pick the best option they gave you. AI throws it out the door. Like on Suno, you're just like, nope, generate another 200. I'll be back in an hour. You know what I mean? Like that, it's such a weird mentality that hasn't existed until now, like in the last few years. Like unless you were a freaking money bags and you were just like hired a room full of artists and told them to draw hundreds of versions of something.
Yeah.
What's the weirdest artwork you've seen generated AI art?
The hands.
Oh, I mean, I don't know how to answer that.
Yeah.
Usually it's like totally unexpected things where, so a lot of AI models are trained the same way that Suno, right? Suno just like, I don't know exactly how Suno is trained, but let's say that they just randomly scrape everything on SoundCloud, right? You're going to get some questionable things in that scraping process because it's all automated. The same thing in AI, but imagine the internet having all the images that are out there, and the images are what's being used to train these AI art models. Well, if you were to just categorize every image on the internet, if there was one main category where most of internet images fit into, what category do you think that would be? And it's porn, because that's like predominantly what so much media on the internet in particular is. And that leads to a lot of AI models. They actually have like a horniness rating almost. And it's not that like people are intentionally making these models to do this, but if you want to train AI to know how light reflects off of skin, or how it reflects off of cars, or like every little intricate way that something's been generated, so much of the media on the internet that it's ingesting is just like naked people, right? Or even if it's not naked, it's like someone in a bikini selling you a Budweiser, or someone in a bikini on a car. Like there's so much of that in popular media that it just gets regurgitated. So sometimes I'll be searching for like, generate me a picture of an owl, and if you're using a weird model, like the owl will come out, but it'll have like a huge rack on it or something. You know what I mean? Like just weird things, and you're just like, I wasn't expecting that particular iteration of this. We'll just keep moving on. So I can't point one in particular. There's been a lot of weird misfires like that, where like I wasn't expecting that to have boobs, but it does.
Like this?
That one in particular had some really weird misfires, and I was literally just trying to make a pineapple owl, but every once in a while, like instead of eyes, there'd be boobs there.
Oh my gosh. This one was really cool. Oh, where the heck?
Yeah, every one of these has been some kind of an experiment into like a very particular technique, or like a new approach, or some kind of workflow.
Yeah.
Like the Bigfoot one was, this was right when Suno 3 came out, and I was experimenting with trying to get it to do like a lo-fi blues trap weird genre mixture, and then I was taking the lyrics it generated and then using every line in an AI model that was trained on yarn art. So every one of these this is all stills from like AI generated yarn artwork, but then I took all the stills together and used something called animate diff, which kind of like morphs them into each other, what makes the animation.
Okay.
And this is a cool song example too, because I already know at least 2 or 3 people that have made their own real acoustic versions of this song, which was 100% generated on AI, but now people actually rewrote the music notes out, played it on a guitar, sang to it. So now there's like a real analog human version of something that started as AI.
Jeez, that's awesome. I thought, for some reason, this was like claymation at first. So then I ended up downloading Kyber thinking I could do the same thing, and it is. I'm not good. I am horrible at trying to create weird art or whatever for videos for music. I was like, I can't do it.
Drag chicken was pretty nice.
Well, I didn't make it into a video.
This one's real easy, man. I mean, it takes a lot of know-how to figure out the steps, but once you know all the different steps, there's like very little effort involved to go through it. Like the whole process of this was spending maybe a day tweaking until you get the exact look that you want, so it's consistent, and then hitting generate, walking away for an hour, coming back, kind of like Suno, and now you've got like 800 options to go through. You pick out your top, 20, and then I just take those different frames and just animate them together and make these videos.
And then that's your credits for the month. You're like, crap.
Oh, you're not kidding me. I'm on the plan where I get like 20,000 a month, I think now.
Okay. Jeez, yeah.
Jeez.
It's like whatever their top pro plan is. Because I would burn through them all in like 3 days. So I make good use out of them. I think I do. I uploaded like 20 yesterday. I don't know if they're all public yet, but I've got I got a whole bunch of brand new ones, and I've got like 4 albums that I want to drop eventually. Although they're taking a little bit longer because I'm actually bringing them into Ableton and chopping them up and adding like little samples and stuff. Okay. But I've got one that I want to do an entire album of just instrumental West Coast, like 1994 West Coast hip hop, called MWA, Made with AI. Straight out of Suno at the bottom. But I just want it to be like, I want it to sound so authentic, like it actually might be something that someone just never released in the 90s. But then I want to do a Memphis one. I want to do like a Southern one. I want to do an East Coast rugged, like Wu-Tang style one, and just release a whole bunch of instrumental albums in all these different genres. So, I mean, I make use of those 20,000 credits.
Yeah. Now, I got a question for you, because I was just looking at your Instagram, and I'm like, who the heck is this? For some reason, I thought it was you, and then I realized, who is BOCK? The BOCK Saga?
BOCK Saga?
Yeah.
So, that's a wild question. BOCK's a guy that was a tour guide in Finland, I believe.
Okay.
And he basically came up with this story that his family, the BOCK family, it's his last name, were the original people, like literally like the first human beings ever on the entire planet, and that the original people came from a monkey that had sex with a goat, and the monkey and the goat, they birthed a male and female human children. That male and female were like the original Adam and Eve, essentially. They have incest with each other, and then that populates the rest of the earth. And that really, it didn't come out of Africa, and it didn't come out of Asia. It came out of Finland, specifically Helsinki, and that we all came out of like these, white people in Helsinki. And it goes a little further than that. If you look at that design, this is the BOCK Saga family reunion, and it's got a bunch of dudes doing yoga poses around the outside. It's not just like a Greek sort of pattern. Like those are all naked dudes that are sucking themselves off because the BOCK Saga. I'm not making this up. The BOCK Saga teaches that language, the alphabet, and just all of human communication was created from that first human child. He accidentally, I guess, or somehow found himself into giving himself autofellatio, and the moment that he fucking releases, he understands language. Like basically the knowledge of language and the alphabet and words came spontaneously from him ingesting himself, and then he immediately teaches this to his sister. And the way he does that is by giving her the same way that he got his, and that this was the original way that all humans pass down information, to the point where the premise of the BOCK Saga is that they want to restore the world back to how it used to work. And how it used to work is that dudes would just go around collecting each other's essence and bring it to the king, and the king would drink it. The king would drink everybody's essence in the whole village, because that's the way that you would give him your knowledge. So that's the best cliff notes I can give of the BOCK Saga.
This sounds like an AI made up.
Yeah. I'll be back.
It sounds like a Chat GPT fever, yeah.
Oh
Yeah,
my
'cause,
gosh,
like,
3 ninjas kick
I need to know.
Now, I'm curious as how he rationalizes how black folks and brown folks come from white people in Helsinki.
So this was, according to the BOCK Saga, I'm not an expert, but I've read all the damn books and talked to all the damn people. that non-white people came from people that were deviating from this system, because only the king and the queen were allowed to reproduce, and everyone came from the king and the queen. And the second poor people started banging each other outside of just the king and the queen, they start creating all these different races and all these other different cultures. And that's essentially the downfall of the world, is that it wasn't just the king and the queen that got to bang each other forever.
So is it? Sorry, I'm with you, brother.
No, I lost my words. I'm like, I don't remember what I was thinking.
I never heard of this.
I'm curious as if this dude goes from village to village and he collects dudes' essences so he can drink it.
Why?
So if you look on Rumble only, on Rumble, there's a video called Occult Book Club Box Saga. It's 6.5 hours where me and Juan read the Bible, I guess you would say, of the Box Saga by this guy named Carl Borgen.
The Bockel, bro. Sorry, didn't mean to interrupt you, bro.
But I mean, if you ever want to know about it, that the whole video is there. You won't have to read the book yourself. We read it from start to end, every freaking page. This is, and all of these have like little puns. This is Bach and Block.
ACDC. Oh my gosh.
So do I do the Box now
Oh,
first,
it's-
or do I do the Box Saga first? Because
He lost his voice even more.
yes, because I'm in shock. Like, I guess I'm gonna be stupid because I'm not going around drinking nobody's. I'm gonna be.
Well, you wouldn't get to. Only the king gets to do that. The poor people don't get to do any of the drinking. They actually are the ones that get to do the releasing. It's only the upper echelon of society that get. And dude, it sounds so wild, right? But the Box Saga teaches that the military had nothing to do with warfare. That, for example, the shield that you would see, like an old shield, like medieval one, right? And they wear it on their arm, and you would assume that they wear that shield to protect them from like a spear or an arrow or a sword. But that's not true according to Box Saga. The shield, that little loop that they put on their arm, that wasn't for your arm. The shield was like a bowl, and that little strap in the middle was to put somebody's member through, so that when they released, it would fill the shield up like a big saucer bowl. And you would bring the shield to your captain, and the captain would drink everyone out of the shield. And the word captain, according to Box Saga, means cup 10, as in a cup of 10 guys' essence that you would then drink. And that, you know how military officers have rank? They've got the yellow bars on their shoulder. So the yellow bars would start out white. And what would happen is that after your troops would come and bring you their offering, after you drank it from the shield, you would take a little bit left over and you would wipe it on your shoulder. And over time, the more you had given to you, it would start to go from white to like a deep yellow, because it's like decaying and like fermenting on your shoulder. And that meant that like the people that were the most respected in the military had the most gold on their shoulder, meaning they had collected the most from all the people and their troops. This is, dude, I'm not making this up. This is the actual belief of the Box Saga.
Brings a new meaning to.
Oh.
Dude, every single joke you think that you can make about the Box Saga, it's all literal. Like, it's, I swear to God, we did a 6.5 hour episode and we tried to come up with every dick joke, and then like an hour in, we'd be like, oh, it's not a joke. They actually did that, like every single time.
He was Wim Hof for a second.
Right?
It's like, jeez.
Oh my,
All right.
that's deep.
Oh.
So deep.
Well,
Captain, my captain.
Oh.
okay.
Oh. Sweating.
What was he smoking or drinking to come up with this?
Yeah, he must have been on some
What do you
heavy
think he was drinking?
ayahuasca or something.
Oh, you dirty.
He was drinking from the cup.
No, but he was poor, right? So he couldn't be drinking from the cup.
He was drinking from himself.
Remember?
Correct.
The poses?
His whole people.
And oh, yeah.
Just a
His
freak,
children in his mouth.
just a freaky type of dude who's just trying to get other people to embrace freaky type stuff.
Yeah. We definitely don't get monetized.
Pornhub,
Have fun editing that one.
Yeah, I know. I'll upload it to his OnlyFans.
Yes,
Patreon.
Yeah,
I need new
Patreon.
material.
Yeah. Oh no. Oh my gosh! And then we talked to Todd last Tuesday.
This Tuesday.
Yeah, this
This
past
past
Tuesday.
Tuesday.
Yeah, I just wanted to tell you thank you again for like putting us on to him and stuff too. Like he helped us out.
Yeah, Todd
like,
Cave.
Yeah, and he told us about Opus Clippus or something. Opus Clip. You ever heard of that?
Oh yeah. It's yeah. You can upload a video and it'll automatically clip it and put the lyrics on the screen and everything for you. Yeah.
I was like, this is nuts. And it's like, it's weird. I felt so bad because I was so tired on that episode. He's like, yeah, I'm good with starting at like 8:30 your time. I'm like, oh, like, all right. Well, I had to work the next day. And we were on. I was like, all right, I probably should only do like maybe an hour, hour and a half because I don't want to go to bed by 10. Or, I mean, I don't want to, yeah, I probably have to be done by 10. Well, he's an hour behind. So I think he was looking at his time like, oh, I'm good. And I'm like, I just felt so bad. I was so tired. But it was such a good episode.
Yeah.
Like, it was, I was like, I definitely want to have him on as a guest again. I just felt bad because I was like, I felt like I was so tired. But he was telling me that, I was like, how did you know Paranoid American? Because I ended up getting his info from you. And he's like, oh, from my friend Heidi. I was like, oh, we're having her on in a couple weeks. And then I was like, how did you know her? He was like, oh, from Deplorable Janet. I was like, oh my gosh. It was like full circle how I got into conspiracies, like following her. So.
That's funny. Yeah. I mean, I think I might have met Heidi through Deplorable Janet too.
Okay. Yeah, we like years ago, I mean, it was probably 2020 when it happened. Like, do you know who Tommy G was?
I honestly, I never listened to other podcasts, and I kind of still don't. So like, a lot of these names are brand new to me. When people bring like, oh man, you've never heard of like Blue Bubbles or something, and it's like they've got 100 million followers. Like I don't know because I'm still new in this whole space.
Yeah, just my parents.
So no, I don't know Tommy G, but shout out to Tommy G.
Yeah, I ended up. He had a conspiracy podcast, and Janet used to be a part of that, and then she started her own thing. So it's like, I always wonder, like, how did you hear about Janet, or how did you guys come across each other? Because she kind of was like the first, like, definitely like Mount Crushmore type person. Like she would be a part of anybody's like first experience in a conspiracy, or like having them on her podcast and stuff, or vice versa.
Yeah, we did a roundtable with her that was really awesome because like she brings straight facts to the discussion, which is really cool.
Yeah. So I liked her perspective. She was like a nurse or something prior. But
Yep.
Like talk about the.
So was Heidi. I think that's probably part of like why they bonded.
Nice. Yeah, and like I remember you were talking about at the beginning where you said Joseph Smith. No, Joseph Smith. Was the guy the Mormon?
The Mormon guy.
Yeah. Did you get a lot of that information from her too? Because that's what she likes to talk about, right?
From Heidi, yeah, she goes deep in that. But I mean, I know about Joseph Smith because he's one of the guys that stole, quote unquote, stole the secrets of Freemasonry, and Mormonism and Freemasonry are like inherently linked forever because of that. So I had already a little bit of a fascination with that. But before I met Heidi, I'd probably say like 80% of what I knew about Joseph Smith came from South Park and from like internet videos and memes and stuff like that. You know what I mean?
Nice. All right, cool. Yeah, I forgot to ask you that earlier because I was like, I wonder if, because we're going to have her on. I'm like, I definitely want to talk to her about that stuff too, if that's possible, or like whatever you recommend. Like,
so I think that she has become anti-Joseph Smith over her like ex-Mormon travels, but like if anything, I've become more pro-Joseph Smith over the years. The more I learn about the dude and his family and everything, I think it's fascinating. It's one of the only like 100% American religions that didn't get like influence from outside America. I mean, the Bible, I guess, comes from outside America, but like it is such an inherently American thing, Mormonism, that doesn't really exist in the same way anywhere else. Like, there's so little things that you can say like that is so damn American. Like apple pie, that's German, right? Apple strudel, like so many things that we consider to be French fries, hamburgers, like pizza, like baseball, like none of these things. Well, baseball maybe was kind of American thing if you ignore some stuff that came from Britain, but man, Mormonism is pretty damn American.
okay. Yeah, I never even like considered it that way. That's very interesting, man. And then I was gonna ask you about something else too. So it was the AI, Freemasonry, Disney, the Illuminati. Was there another topic you were like really big into?
I mean, anything and everything.
Notes, and I was like, gonna ask. I was like, crap. And I get a chance to take my notebook, and I forgot about it.
You gave Swank a notebook.
I don't have it in there. I'm just kidding. Man,
This is poetry slam. Book.
yeah, I know. Slam it on the table. Oh man.
I have kind of an off the wall but related question. Do you watch anime at all?
Very vanilla anime. So like the anime that know I've seen is like Ninja Scroll, Princess Mononoke, Vampire Hunter D. But it's I don't do like the Cowboy Bebop and like the Dragon Ball Z or any of that. Like I anything that takes longer than an hour and a half to get into and end, I'm not really sold on it as much. I love Akira, you know, like Ninja Scroll is my go-to. That's like my favorite anime of all time. So
Well, my question is how you do with like Disney and you can see stuff and symbolism. Have you ever saw symbolism while watching anime?
yeah, well, I mean, oh damn, what is the Full Metal Alchemist? It's like you don't have to look into it, right? Like it's all there on the surface. Like they're telling you, like we're summoning demons. This is a homunculus. This is a magic sigil. They even break down like what the sigils mean. It's kind of interesting because anime, like the same info is there. It's just not occulted. Like it's occult information because you're seeing it for the first time, but they actually explain what all of it represents and they use the real names and everything. So it's harder to look at it like secret symbols. It's just the regular symbols, exoteric instead of esoteric.
Okay.
Yeah, I always heard like they almost every anime has like some sort of demons involved in it. And I was like watching, I'm like, oh, there's a demon in that one. Then I watch another one, I'm like, oh, there's a demon hunter, demon slayer. No, I'm just kidding. Just anything with demons in it, I'm like, holy crap, I never realized.
There's one called like I can't remember the name. It's like My Friend the Demon or like Demon is My Friend or something. But like all of these, man, like they actually show a lot of the things that would be like this ancient medieval. And it's weird that Japan has like latched on to medieval occult information and just putting it out there, and no one's freaking out. No one cares that all the cartoons are summoning demons. That's kind of like a Western culture thing where it's like, oh my god, no, we can't do that. There's so much anime that gets neutered on its way over here because we're like culturally can't handle some of the stuff that they just put out there overtly. So I love anime for that aspect of it, and I think that you probably watch Cowboy Bebop and find all sorts of like esoteric knowledge in that.
You think that lack of like them being bothered by demons is how deep we dive into religion and Western culture to where like they shy away from Christianity in Japan and China?
Yeah, so my co-host on Occult Disney is Matt has been living in Japan for like over a decade now. He's like still American at heart, but like, you know, he hasn't left the country in forever. So he's kind of engrossed in it. And the way that he always describes it to me is that it's more like a tradition than a religion. So like the concept of demons and angels and all this stuff, it's kind of foreign in a way that like there's not all this weird negative connotations that goes along with it. So no one's getting offended if you're like, I'm going to summon a demon, or you're talking about demons and stuff. It was hard for me to understand, but I think I get it. It was the same way that he was mentioning that magic mushrooms were legal in Japan forever until Japan hosted the Olympics. And Japan being mindful of that, like all these other cultures were going to be coming in to their country, and they wanted to like not offer something that wasn't already like normal. Like they don't want people coming and like getting all messed up on mushrooms and having a bad impression of Japan as like the place you go to get mushrooms and like weird things happening. So they basically made it all illegal. And then after the Olympics were over, they never made it unillegal. But it's not like there's a criminal element of people that are like, I want to live on the outside. I'm going to go and find these mushrooms. He was describing it more like people didn't stop doing mushrooms because it was amoral or anything. They just stopped doing it because it was illegal. And it's not like they don't do it because they're afraid that they're going to get busted by the cops and they're going to go to jail. Like, it's not the same mentality. It's just like, oh, the government doesn't want us to do that. We're just not doing that as a culture. It's just not a thing that we're going to think about now, which is so foreign as an American, because like the first thing you hear they're passing a law, you're like, I want to go and buy that thing before it gets banned. Like, that's what we do here. but he was describing in Japan. It's the opposite. It's just like, oh, no one's doing that thing. Then I'm not doing that thing either because I don't have any interest in it. It's not like you're even like going on a diet and like cutting out sugar or something. It's just like that's not food anymore.
That's what we talked about with Todd too. Food. But you want to do a segment with us called Conspiracy Theory Trivia?
Sure, let's go.
All right. We got 5 topics. We got random, schemes, tech, mythos, or aliens. And it looks like we have no mythos. But no, you're good. All right. So I'll ask a question, then it'll be multiple choice, and I'll let you guys all guess. Nobody's, unless you probably cheated.
Yeah.
They cheated. All right. So the first topic is aliens. It says, how do children provide enough emotional energy to power the Mars colonies? A, singing, B, screaming, C, running on a treadmill, or D, laughing?
I'm gonna say screaming because of Monsters Inc.
I gotta go with D, laughing.
Yeah, I was
Just because that in Monsters Inc. that was the conclusion they came to in Monsters Inc. Was it laughing produces more energy than crying?
It was B, screaming.
I'm still with.
That's not with Monsters Inc. canon though.
All right. So the next topic is tech. What spin-off TV show was canceled shortly after predicting the events of 9/11? A, Young Americans, B, The Lone Gunman, C, CSI Cyber, or D, Baywatch Nights?
That one's B, Lone Gunman. That's an easy one.
I agree.
With them because
I agree with that too.
Yeah, I don't even know what Lone Gunman is.
It was an offshoot of the X-Files, and like the Lone Gunmen were the guys that Dana or Mulder, he kind of knew these conspiracy theorists that he'd go to them to get like the real inside info. And the particular episode that they were talking about there is they're talking about flying a plane into the Twin Towers, and he's basically saying like, are you saying the whole government's in on this? And the quote's something like, it's not the whole government, it's a small group of elite people in like the right powers of position that are all pulling this off. And he's kind of describing that you only need like 5 people, you don't need like 1,000 people to pull it off.
Jeez, that's crazy. I never heard that. Oh wow, did you pick this one? This one is tech. What broadcasting company housed its headquarters in a Masonic temple? A, CNN, B, BET, C, AMC, or D, MTV?
Oh, CNN.
TV.
I don't even know. I'd say all the above though.
What did you say?
AMC.
And you said
CNN.
MTV.
it was MTV. D.
It's the music.
Yeah. All right. This one is called.
That's honestly these days it's not even a big thing because masonry is hurting so bad they rent their temples out to anyone because they need to help pay the mortgage.
We saw a wrestling event there.
Yeah, in Cleveland.
Yep.
Yeah. Some of my fights used to be at it was at I'm not sure if it was Masonic, but it was at a lodge.
That's
In Akron.
And the OG lodges was just like, let's all meet at the bar after 11 at like Dave's pub or whatever. And that was a lot. Like lodges weren't always a permanent fixture. A lodge could have been something that existed for 3 hours.
Oh, okay. I feel like that's like you ever been to like a what are they called? It's like for veterans where you can go. Yeah, the VFW. I feel like
Yeah, well, it's almost like the VFW is the location that you go to that also has a bar, but like the OG Masonic lodges in America, a lodge could just be set up for long enough it took to do something. So if we were like, hey, we're going to overthrow this British, ruler in this town, it's going to take us 2 weeks to do it. And it's like every night we're going to meet up at midnight at, the docks or something. Well, guess what? Like, well, not the docks. You have to go into a building that had no windows. But if you went to a pub and they had a back room that had no windows, that's your lodge until you kick the British guy out. And now it just goes back to being a bar again. It's like a lodge was just like an agreed upon place that you would go and meet at an agreed upon time.
Yeah, sometimes we'll drive by and it's like old brick building, and you're like, what is that? And then all of a sudden they have like just in the glass or on the door, they just have like the G with the compass and stuff. It's like, oh, and I never understood. I was like, I always like wondered. I'm like, what does the G stand for? I'm like, Freemason. I was like, how is that Freemason if it has a G? I was like,
I remember that walk right downtown.
oh yeah, there's every downtown like has multiple.
It's
But-
right behind the U-Haul.
Oh, I don't know. There's some like right on Main Street.
This one's like this
Oh.
Rebecca Williams, the launch.
Yeah, we'll show you. No. All right. The next one is schemes. The next one, schemes. All right. What is the name of the Pentagon zombie plan? A. Biden 2023. B. Canope 8888. C. OPZ. Or D. The Eighth Man Rule.
I don't like it.
What is it?
It's Canope 8888. Oh, I never would have guessed that either. Some of them I'm like, I don't know. I feel like we got to pick some fun ones.
Just for people really down the rabbit hole.
Yeah. Some of these I'm like, I have no idea. Oh
You
my
said-
gosh.
You said at random, right?
Yeah. All right. What did boxer Logan? I can't believe they're even saying he's a boxer. What did boxer Logan Paul declare he was going to prove? A. The Earth is flat. B. Bigfoot is real. C. Reptilians rule the world. Or D. We live in a simulation.
Well, we live in simulation.
Bigfoot.
Because believing that cat is a boxer has got to be simulated.
What you think of Paranoid?
Yeah, I guess the simulation. I'm not up on my Jake Paul
Yeah,
or Logan Paul. Same
Yeah.
difference, right?
you guys are right. The simulation.
Whatever. This game's rigged.
I know. I'm sorry. The game is
It's
rigged.
It's such low hanging fruit. It seems like something that like a YouTuber would latch on to the easiest.
Yeah. Not believing in something. All right. And then do you want to plug any of your socials and stuff? I could pull them all up for you.
Yeah, the big one is just paranoidamerican.com. That's the only one that I actually have some modicum of control over. So even if I get banned from everywhere else, I'll still have my own website. But yeah, I'm Paranoid American on Instagram, Paranoid America with no N at the end on Twitter because they don't allow that many letters. And the next big project I got going on is nasacomic.com. And if you go to nasacomic.com, you'll be able to click there on notify me at launch. And if you do that, and if you get one of the printed books, you'll get like a secret trading card, a NASA Paranoid American trading card. So that's something I'm going to try and do with all my new campaigns. Anyone that signs up early will end up getting some free something, sticker, print, maybe an extra comic. I don't know what it's going to be on every one of these campaigns. This one, it's going to be at least a trading card and some other stuff.
Okay. And yeah, here's the website. Got that Chaos Twins already. Had to hurry up and get that one.
And we've got a handful of ones that were signed by Sam Tripoli that I might put up soon. I think we might do some giveaways or something. I'm not sure yet.
That American Cryptids. That I got that.
Oh, the coloring book? Yeah.
That's the big one, man. That's the one that outsells everything else on the site combined. That one sells more copies.
Jeez. Yeah, I almost got you this one too, but I don't think that's the coloring book.
No, that the Paranoid American History 101's the very first graphic novel that I did. It's just
Okay.
8 different short stories. Yeah, we got Time Samplers, which is where it started all. Those are the time traveling musicians. So it still has that original DNA of like this was going to be a concept album, but it turned into a comic book. Secret Mysteries, and like everything here kind of flowed out of Time Samplers. So the original premise of Time Samplers was that the way that they did time travel was it was like a psychedelic time travel, and they had to go and procure some like DMT and salvia and THC and a bunch of stuff. But over time, I really wanted to just have that laser focus on conspiracy theories. I wanted to talk about Federal Reserve and MK Ultra and Project Monarch and not have to spend 4 or 5 pages describing how the psychedelic time travel stuff worked. So that gave birth to Secret Mystery School, where the whole premise of that one is about psychedelics and using it to like traverse different dimensions and meet old philosophers and stuff. So like every one of these books kind of was like, oh, I wish this book could do this angle, and I was like, well, that'll just be its own book.
Okay. Man, now some of them just say like number 1 and stuff, but you have multiple time traveler ones, right?
Yeah, so if you click on time samplers right there, it'll bring you to the page of all the different time samplers books. So time samplers have got 5 issues. Secret Mystery School's got 4 issues. Yeah, so there's like the whole bundle of them. And then if you keep going down, it'll give you a little synopsis of like what different what each issue is about. So issue 1 of Time Samplers is all about Jekyll Island, HARP, and it establishes these cloned human hybrids called sheeple. So like the elites actually created real sheeple to be their servants because they're subservient and they have like nice gentle fur or wool.
That's hilarious. Jeez. Yeah, maybe we could even have you come on and just even break down just like the comics and stuff.
Yeah, so in Time Samplers, the whole premise is that every single book covers at least 3 to 5 separate conspiracy theories in absolute detail. So issue 2 is about Skull and Bones, Illuminati, and Project Bluebird in particular. And it introduces this character Luna, who is basically an MK Ultra mind control slave with a tattoo of like bluebirds on her shoulder. It's got like so many different little inside references. And then issue 3 goes into Project Monarch and Dignity Colony. And this one, the whole, like, for whatever reason, almost every one of my issue 3s is like the issue that gets into what I really wanted to get into from the very beginning. But you can't just like, at least in the way that I approach comics, I can't just go on issue 1 immediately into the thing that I want to get into. You have to like build up to it. You got to get people that care about like where you're heading in there. But the whole premise is that in issue 3, I illustrate step by step the exact way to create a mind control slave according to Fritz Springmeier in his seminal book from the 90s called it's a long ass name, but it's called like the elites manual, the Illuminati manual to create an undetectable mind control slave or something. But it shows you exactly what that book spells out. I actually illustrated it all in a comic here.
That's so cool, man. And then like, it goes to 5. Are you done with 5, or are there going to be more?
It's going to go to at least 6, and then after 6 comes out, I'll put them all together as like a single bound graphic novel. But it was going to end at 5, but like, one of the weird things about Time Samplers is that it actually talks on like modern events. So in issue 5, this was published while Donald Trump was president, and like Dennis Rodman was like negotiating our relations with North Korea and stuff. So it's got some of like the topical things in here, but like a bunch of people died, and we've got like a weird conspiracy going on with the royal family. Epstein got discovered. Like all that happened since this issue came out. So now I feel like to really do it justice and give like a nice bow on the final end, I have to at least do one more issue that kind of covers all the things that have happened over the last like 4 years.
Okay. Yeah, that's sick, man. And like, I remember they were talking about doing like the Chaos Twins. There's going to be more of those too, and then there's more Chosen Ones too.
Yeah, so Chaos Twins is a 6-issue series. So is Chosen One. They're both written out already to go the full 6 issues, with the goal always being that once you get all 6 done, re-release it as like an actual graphic novel format, because that gets way more eyes. There's a lot of people that will never touch a single issue comic. Like they just have no interest in it. But the second that it looks like a book with like a perfect binding, and it's thick, now all of a sudden they're open to it. So that's kind of the holy grail, is getting enough pages together to release a full graphic novel.
That's amazing, man. Yeah, dude, this stuff is like so sick to me. It's like, I don't know. It's like, I feel like it's every kid's dream come true and stuff. Like, get your friends in comics and stuff who jump on the podcast and everything with you. I'm like, that's awesome.
I mean, this was what I've always wanted to do. So it's so cool to be able to incorporate like my friends into the comics and actually have like
The
to
dub?
talk about a certain topic and be like, I wish I could go and punch Aleister Crowley, and it's like we can make that happen.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's an example of some art that I did myself. Like that wasn't commissioned. All of the nostalgia Nicktoons stickers. I've got one of Heifer from Rocco's Modern Life as like Moloch. I did that one too. Yeah, that one I did.
That's one of my favorites. Oh my gosh.
And I made a Starfort Patrick too. Yeah, that's the Starfort one.
This one here.
I did that one too, but yeah, if you go down the next row, there's one that says
Starforts. Jeez. I don't know what Starforts is.
It's my what versus Starforts.
It's a fort. Back in the day, they used to build the forts.
Oh.
Oh, dude, a lot of these are very niche. You know what I mean? Like you gotta know to know. Like the Goodwill Frazzle one.
Yeah.
Like you wouldn't really know what that is unless you've seen it.
It's like the thank you grocery bag.
Yeah.
Dude,
And if you like any of the music, you can find all of it for free, and you can download it. I try posting the lyrics a lot of time. I don't actually have a link on the website here because I've been keeping my music almost like a little bit separate, just so that it doesn't completely cross pollinate. But it's all on SoundCloud and on Spotify and on iTunes. If you just search for Sound Scientists, that's actually the name of the group that I was in, and still publish music under that name. So I've got like some actual credits on MTV and VH1, and I did music for like Adobe and Howard Stern and Bum Fights and a whole bunch of stuff. And that was all under Sound Scientists. And I just decided instead of coming up with a new band name, I just wanted to use the traction that I already built off of Sound Scientists and just pump, conspiracy music through this route. Because that's where it was originally supposed to start anyways. So it felt fitting to like make that be, incorporate that back in again to Paranoid American.
Yeah, this is all so sick, man. I'm like so pumped to even know about this stuff and know about you and everything too. It's like I feel like it's come full circle finding out about you and then like actually meeting or talking to you and stuff and meeting you on the podcast.
And a lot of these, like this song in particular, the A Queen, the whole reason this even existed is because I was trying to talk about this on like a YouTube, and the video kept getting taken down, and I was getting strikes for it and stuff. So then, like, my thought was, well, I wonder if I can write a song about this. And so, long story short, you can't. I wrote a song, and I tried to post the song on YouTube, and that also got taken down, and I got a strike over it. But I was like, okay, but what if I put the song on iTunes or Spotify, and then I go on, YouTube, and I select that song as the backing for my video, and that you're allowed to do. So that was almost the original catalyst for a lot of these weird like meme songs, was just because I can't take that song and make a video and put it directly on YouTube, and I can't put it directly on Instagram, it'll get banned. But if I upload it to iTunes and then select the iTunes version on my YouTube post or on my Instagram post, now they'll allow me to play my own music without getting banned because it came from like the corporate overlords. It's the weirdest thing, but I don't know. It's like the game that we play.
Jeez. Yeah, some of these I just driving around, I just have it on like shuffle, and sometimes it'll be like some random song, and then all of a sudden one of these would come on, and I was like, just like foot massage, and I was like singing along. I'm like,
Ghislaine foot massage, yeah.
And then did not see George Soros. I love how it's like not see. Did you see? Get it?
Yeah, so there's actually a song about George Soros being a Nazi that's on Spotify that you can listen to, which I don't think if I wrote it out the way that it actually, because I couldn't get Suno to say that. It kept telling me like, oh, you can't, like, we don't approve of those lyrics. So eventually I found out the way to make it sound.
Okay.
Now, speaking of that, do you see like the restrictions on some of these AI tools being lifted during in aftermarket or like private?
No, the only way they get lifted is when you figure out how to run it yourself on your own machine. It's the only way they get lifted. And unfortunately, with audio right now, I don't think that, at least it's a secret if it exists, but I don't think there's any local models that are doing what Suno or Udio or any of these other companies are doing audio wise. When it comes to images and video and even text generation, you can do pretty much all of that on like a laptop at this point, or like a new MacBook, but not audio. Audio gets a lot harder, especially when it comes to music. So yeah, I think that for music, it's only going to get worse. But for image, text, and video generation, the cat's kind of already out of the bag. Like you can run all that stuff locally, and like the only way they're really going to be able to moderate that is that if Microsoft starts like taking a screenshot of your computer every 5 seconds and like uploading it to a cloud somewhere, which is what they said that they're planning on doing soon. So that's not out of the realm of possibilities, but. That was another. I Want to Be Rich is another one from Cheney. She came up with the concept for that one.
That was such a good idea too. I like that a lot. And at first, I thought Sound Scientist. I thought that was you and Cheney combined, like that was you two together. But some stuff it is, right?
Yeah, I try and I'll actually give her writing credits in the ones that she does. If you go to SoundCloud, there's way more songs on there that don't make it onto Spotify, just because the process to get it fully released is such a pain in the ass. I don't even know if I have it linked on here. If you just go on SoundCloud and just search for Sound Scientists, you'll see like I think there's over 200 tracks there now that are all free to download. Wow. Some of them are like just there this week.
Jeez. I did hear one that you just did, the tree one. The Magic Mason, that one. That one was new.
Yeah. Go if you go into the top 4 or 5, those are like the highlighted ones. Everything under that, there's some that are like less than 24 hours old on here. There's one that I did called "What's Wrong with Your Baby's Head" about Paris Hilton's kid. I can't remember the exact name of it. Dude, it's so catchy. Like I was listening to it over and over again, just because of how much I just liked the song itself.
That's hilarious. Oh my gosh. What's wrong with your...
Yeah. This one's a bang. I mean, everyone's got their own musical taste, but this one was like a banger for me. Like I was legitimately listening to this because I liked the music.
Are these on? These aren't on Spotify yet?
Not yet. This is kind of like the breeding ground. I'll put them here first. I'll see how they do. And if they get like 100 or 1,000 plays or something, then I'll probably put it on Spotify.
Sorry, go ahead.
This is the one I was talking about, the Each Tree Seed. That one I heard recently. I like that one a lot.
That's actually a song that I wrote while I was in high school.
Really?
Yeah, I had it in an old notebook. It's always been in the back of my head. This still isn't even the version that I want to hear. It was just the best one that I've been able to make so far.
Now, have you monetized your music?
Yeah, so I mean that was when I started in music, so I had some published. Like I'm an ASCAP registered artist. I've got like some regular credits, so like I already had that set up. So now when I release new music, I just set it all up through the same company and the same ASCAP release schedule that I've always been releasing under.
Now, how does the process work with AI music? I'm just asking personally because I'm kind of intrigued.
So with Suno in particular, it's dicey, right? Because like you have to prove that you generated it off of some service to even care about it. But with Suno, if you pay for their pro service, they say that you own all the lyrics, all the music generated. It's 100% belongs to you. But if you're generating it on the free plan, then technically they own all of the lyrics and all of the music, and you're not allowed to monetize it. But currently, there's not like a way for them to know if you did or you didn't. Honestly, like I pay for Suno just because I would run out of credits within an hour if I didn't. So it just like I automatically get that. Who knows? In 5 years, someone might be like, you know what? You're not allowed to copyright any AI music now. Period. It's in a weird day. Like there was, I don't know if you must have heard the new, like the Kendrick Lamar and the Drake beef or whatever. The BBL Drizzy song was an AI generated song, right? And apparently the guy that made that original beat, he either lucked out or maybe he was just smart. I think it was out of luck, but because he generated fake AI music but it had lyrics in it because it says BBL Drizzy in the sample. Now it's like this technicality where it's like he wrote lyrics and now he can actually claim like extra credits in the copyright as a songwriter and get credits from that. Whereas if it had just been AI generated sample, someone could have theoretically stolen it and not given them credit or given them any sort of payment for it, because it might have been in that weird area. Like if you generated off Suno for free, then everybody owns it. It's and that's not an exact, I'm not a lawyer, but that's kind of the way that I've seen it playing out so far.
So much good stuff.
I know, dude. This has freaking been amazing. TBD, you got the thought for the day?
Yes, sir.
The thought for the day is just a thought or a day that we do the things. No, TBD does a quote of the day or some sort of positive message, or it might just say hit somebody in the face, but just depends on what it is.
Some people need slaps.
Some people
Some
do.
people. Okay, today's thought for today. Treat all disasters as if they were trivialities, but never treat a triviality as if it were a disaster.
Nice. And do you have anything else you want to plug at all?
Maybe unless it's a house fire, then maybe treat a house fire like it's a real disaster and not a triviality. There's always a few exceptions to every rule, right?
Yes.
I think we've plugged almost damn near everything. I've got a video game that's coming out at some point this year, next year. It's called Lucifer Lives in Lower Manhattan, and I don't even know if I've got any easy links that'll bring you to it off the top of my head. It's on Kickstarter. If you search for it specifically on Kickstarter, you might find it. And it's on Steam. So if you go on Steam and you search for Lucifer Lives in Lower Manhattan, you'll see a little placeholder page there with screenshots and everything. Like it's legit. It's coming out. I've been working on it for the last 3 years or so, and it was inspired by my research into the origins of the Satanic Panic in America and the claims about Freemasons that were doing like satanic rituals and sacrificing people and worshiping Lucifer. Like we've all heard all the Freemasonic stories about Satan worshiping and stuff. Well, I did a crazy deep dive on it, and at the end of it, I was like, this isn't a comic book. It would take too many pages. It would be like a 400-page comic, and I didn't want to write a traditional book about it because that kind of makes it more boring than what I saw in my head. So this was the next logical conclusion, was to make a video game, which would basically be the equivalent of like a 400-page book, but with music and inventory and cool little side quests and puzzles to solve. So this is a huge branch out for me, because this is like the first time since I worked at Disney that I put together a full video game.
Dude, you're living every kid's dream.
Yeah, man.
Like the music, the freaking comic books, the creating your own video games. How do we get TBD involved in the next Chaos Twins?
On the best example is like the Chosen One, where it's like every time there's a new episode, there's like a few extra little podcasters that get brought into the fold. I'm trying to think of other ways to expand this, so not everyone has to jump into like the Chosen One series, for example, right? So one of those is that I'm doing all things all the times at once. But another project that I've been working on for like over a decade is conspiracycards.com, which right now it just redirects to my site, but it's a collection of over 200 trading cards, like legit foil wrapped, in boxes, retail shrink wrap, like the whole nine. And this might be a good way to get more people into the fold, where you get like your own trading card first, and then based on that, it can evolve into something a little bit bigger.
Oh, dope.
Yeah, all of this is so sick, man.
I got a POG series that I've been wanting to come out with too. Like I got so many, man.
Make a big slammer. You're like, yeah. Is that what you're talking about?
Hell yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I thought so. I was like,
I want to be the slammer.
oh yeah. But all right, hey, do you got any last words? Not that these will be your last words by any means. Just
Is that a threat? If this is stuff that you want to do, I know a lot of people just say it's like, well, just do it. Well, also, if you can't do it and you want to vicariously live through me, please feel free. Like, go and buy some comics. Every time, literally, if someone goes and buys like 3 comics on the site, and they spend $30, and I ended up getting like 22 of that after shipping and fees, like that $22 goes directly to an artist that would otherwise be starving on the streets somewhere, like dying and decaying, but I'm employing them and I'm getting them to make cool stuff and patches and comic books and video games and stickers and all this stuff. So even if you yourself can't produce it and you want more of it out there, like, hook me up and I'll hook you up. You know what I mean? Like, I'll make more of this stuff to go out there. And my big goal really is to get so much made in such a quantity that I can drop prices down to where, like, that little MK Ultra pamphlet that you saw that you got for free, right? Right now, I think they cost around 60 cents or something to make one. If I get like 5,000, 10,000 printed, if I just get 500 printed, now they cost me like $1.50 or something. Ideally, man, I would love to get the price on those things down to where they're like 10 cents a piece, where I could just give out like hundreds of them and not, necessarily miss it too much. If I give 100 out now, like, it's like $200 hit every single time. If it only costs me like $10 to give out 100 of those things, now I'm like canvassing cities with thousands of MK Ultra pamphlets. And that's really like the ultimate goal, is to have the cost be so low that I can almost give this stuff out for free. But right now it doesn't work out that way until people start like jumping in droves.
Yeah, you start giving them out for free, like bus passes from George Soros.
I mean, that's the goal, man. I would love to go into like a bookstore and just slide an MK Ultra pamphlet in like every damn book. Every single child's book is gonna get like a Satanic Panic pamphlet. You know what I mean? Like, that's kind of the dream.
It's freaking dope, man. Hey, dude, thank you so much for coming on, man. We really appreciate you. Gente, you got any final words?
Yo.
Oh, jeez. Sorry, it's been a long day.
I don't know, man. Thank you for coming on. You're definitely blocked our minds. That was great.
Yeah. Oh.
Blocked our minds.
Blocked our mind.
Oh, no.
Sure.
I just thought about it.
Definitely one of the.
It's a boxing. All the elites.
Oh,
You're way.
Dude, go watch the video, man. Go on Rumble, search for Occult Book Club Box Saga, and it'll blow your mind. Like, you won't, like, all the jokes that you're thinking of, it's all in the actual Bible of the Box Saga. Like, and they weren't necessarily joking, although I've got it on good authority. Someone that grew up with Eeyore Bach, like the actual guy, for 40 years. His name was Michel Merle. He's an awesome guy. He was like, yeah, dude, like, everyone knew about all the dick jokes, and it was hilarious. Like, how could you not laugh at the premise of this? And it's like, but also, yeah, we were eating ourselves constantly.
literally.
Yeah. Shente? Ah, my gosh.
Swank.
I've done this twice.
Swank, you got
Swank,
anything
I'm
to
so sorry. I'm so sorry.
No, I mean, you may have answered this earlier. This is a question directly for you. So, has Paranoid American become your like day to day, what you do for like essentially monetary and like living?
For now, yeah. Since last December, the company I worked for basically outsourced everyone to India, and instead of immediately jumping right back onto the train and getting another job in software engineering or else, I decided to like just put everything I had into Chaos Twins and Chosen One and NASA Comic, and it's not exactly sustainable yet, but I've had tastes of it, right? So like the Sam Tripoli Chaos Twins comic, I understand that was very much like Sam has a huge passionate user base and they came in and showed up for that thing. But it represents a niche comic that sold like $35,000 worth of product in like a month. And if I could do that on every one of my books every month or even every 3 months, I could have that kind of a showing. Yeah, now Paranoid American could be a full-time job where I can just focus on that all the time. Right now, I'm just kind of like riding out until like the mortgage payments start bouncing, and then it's like, okay, I got to go and get like a regular job again. I'm trying my best to put all my energy and focus into Paranoid American to turn that into my full-time job.
Okay, for sure. That's awesome. Pretty good.
Swank, you got any last words for the podcast?
Nothing I can think of, man. This was great.
Yeah. Dude, Paranoid American, thank you so much. This has probably been my favorite episode.
Best, yeah.
You're definitely on our Mount Crushmore. We just keep adding more and more people. I would say, anybody?
You're at the head, you're at the
Yeah,
head.
yeah, you're at the top. You're at the top.
Sure.
You're at the tippy top. With
I
an eye.
appreciate that.
But hey, man, thank you so much for stopping in, and sorry if we kept you too long, but this is like the best. But to anybody else listening, my mom, Jack, no, stay safe, stay blessed, and keep on questioning. We out.
Deuce.
Whispers in the shadow, stories left untold, conspiracies unravel, the brave lead the bold. Aliens on the radar, Bigfoot in the night, Atlantis deep beneath us, truth is just a lie. Speak in code, speak soft and slow. Secret tales the world won't know. Legends, myths unravel fast. Truth or fiction, shadows cast. Questions laced with mystery. Doubt or faith, what's right to see. Earth and gone or just pretend. Debate won't ever end. Tales and secrets, opinions start to flow. Dive into the unknown. Is it real or just a show? Speak in code, speak soft and slow. Secret tales the world won't know. Speak in code, speak soft and slow. Speak in code. Secret tales the world will never know. We speak in code. And all American stickers, cryptids, cults, and killers. We got all your favorite conspiracies, all the land and more on our sticker sheets. Paranoid American stickers, they'll make you smile and snicker. False flags and secret societies, all of these and more on our sticker sheets.
Explore the unique with Paranoid American sticker sheets. Unearth tales of cryptids, cults, and mysteries through each sticker. These won't last long. Get yours now at paranoidamerican.com.
We're all American stickers, cryptids, cults, and killers. We got all your favorite conspiracies, all the land and more on our sticker sheets. Paranoid American stickers, they'll make you smile and snicker. False flags and secret societies, all of these and more on our sticker sheets.
What the heck are you waiting for? Discover the extraordinary with Paranoid American sticker sheets. From cryptids in the night to cults out of sight, each sticker is a unique find. Get yours now at paranoidamerican.com.
They said it was forbidden. They said it was dangerous. They were right. Introducing the Paranoid American Homunculus Owner's Manual. Dive into the arcane, into the hidden corners of the occult. This isn't just a comic. It's a hidden tome of supernatural power. All original artwork illustrating the groundbreaking research of Juan Ayala, one of the only living homunculologists of our time. Learn how to summon your own homunculus, an enigma wrapped in the fabric of reality itself, their power at your fingertips, their existence, your secret. Explore the mysteries of the Aristotelian, the spiritual, the Paracelsian, the Crowleyan homunculus, ancient knowledge lost to time, now unearthed in this forbidden tale. This comic book holds truths not meant for the light of day, knowledge that was buried, feared, and shunned. Are you ready to uncover the hidden? The Paranoid American Homunculus Owner's Manual, not for the faint of heart. Available now from Paranoid American. Get your copy at tjojp.com or paranoidamerican.com today.
That's right. The new Paranoid American playsets. Custom art for adults, disguised as brick modular playsets. Mix and match them and collect them all. Very limited editions. Some of these will only have 20 in existence. Fake your own moon landing. Comes with director, fake moon rock, and 2 astronauts. Super Predator playset comes with reptilian, shape-shifting politician, and a light-up severed head. Nephilim Portal Baby playset. Complete with a portal, Nephilim Baby, and Watcher Angel. Death by Cop playset. You know you want it, so just stop resisting. The Homunculus Growing Kit with a miniature Alchemy Lab kit and more. Bohemian Grove playset. Stage your own cremation of care ceremony. Wet Market Playset. Violate the very fabric of humanity in your own biolab.
Disclaimer. These are custom art creations and not toys meant for wimpy little new world order babies. Don't eat the art. Don't sue the artist. For more details, visit paranoidamerican.com.
Paranoid American playsets available now at paranoidamerican.com.